What's up, Sifters? Welcome to GameFace 51, taking place during Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Today I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait, I'm the boss. I can do whatever I want. But even when you're the boss, you really still can't do whatever you want. So we are here. Feel free to update the score of the game. It's going to the third period in the chat. I don't know if I have a chance to take a look at it, but hopefully it's good news. 2-1 Penguins going to the third. Probably should be more, but we'll see how it goes. But we do have a great show for you guys tonight. It's been a crazy week in games.
Then don't lie.
Yeah.
Because you'll find out who you are.
Yeah, don't troll me, please. This is way too important to me. Obviously, I got the sweater on today. It's way too important. Don't troll me, just to be honest. But
I don't think they'd do that.
I don't know. You never know. Somebody could just jump in who's not normally on our stream and just try to be a jerk. So it's been a good week in games, or at least a busy week in games.
Yeah. A lot of stuff happened. A couple of leaks, a couple of delays, a couple of
delays.
trailers.
I'm hoping that No Man's Sky gets delayed until next millennia.
You better.
My fantasy team needs you to lose like 3 more games.
I thought you had No Man's Sky.
No, I thought you did.
I wouldn't have picked No Man's Sky because I don't know what the reviews are going to be on that.
Maybe neither one of us. I can't even remember what my team is. Once I saw like 2 of my games dropped out, I was like, it's over anyway. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
I do have The Witcher, though, and that's looking pretty good for Blood and Wine.
Yeah.
The reviews are starting to come out on that.
Have you actually spent any time with that yet?
Oh, no. I don't have an early copy of that.
Oh. Wait, I thought Blood and Wine was out already.
I thought it was May 30th.
Is that right? Okay.
Today's not May 30th, is it?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We're still like 6 days away, I think. I think.
I don't remember what day it is.
The days just all blur together, man, when you're running your own business. Like, I don't know which end is up anymore. It's just another day. That's pretty much how it works. But we do have a lot of topics to talk about, a lot to talk about off the top that aren't going to make the Big Six. The first thing we're going to discuss is Valve being sued for LGBT discrimination, essentially. Matt, does this surprise you?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. I mean, Valve always seemed like such a copacetic company in general, but like, I don't know. I mean, I guess they got to do something up there, right? Like, so maybe less time spent belittling your transgender employees and a little more time spent making Half-Life 3 would be nice.
Yeah. Did you see that video that came out this week where a YouTuber compiled every comment that Gabe
the history of Half-Life 3 according to Gabe? That was pretty great.
It was pretty depressing, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I think after watching that, like, you don't realize when you get it bit by bit, like, the impact of all of it. And then when you see it chronologically, and him time after time, one, saying he won't say anything, and then as time goes on, him saying less and less until it's just like, I have nothing to say about it. When you see it all together in one chunk, for me personally, it felt like game's not happening.
Well, I don't know what else to say about it that like Pachter didn't say this week on Pachter Factor, where he's like, they make $500 million in profit every year. Like, why would they bother to make another Half-Life game?
Well, I mean,
to please the fans, but like,
if there is one game that I could think of that, if it was announced and it came out, and regardless of its quality, it would still do exceptionally well financially, it's Half-Life 3.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of another game that, no matter of its quality, would do better in sales.
Call of Duty.
Maybe. I mean, look, it took a hit with Ghost, and Ghost wasn't a bad game, but it wasn't up to the usual standards, and it took a hit.
Bounced back though.
It did.
That's the interesting thing about Call of Duty now to me is that clearly the audience is that they're not as clueless as we think they are.
Yeah, for sure.
They know when the good ones are out. They know which ones are Treyarch. They know they know what they're after.
I'm guessing there was still a lot of people that just bought it blindly, but
like it's a very noticeable gap.
There is a segment of their audience at the top
it's very educated.
that does get it. Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, you don't really hear a lot of like bad stuff out of Valve.
I've never heard anything. Like
no.
I've interviewed, talked to, been around people from Valve for like 2 decades, and everyone I've ever talked to is like, it's the greatest place I've ever worked. It's inclusive. I just wonder
if this guy, this manager in question, was just an anomaly,
right? Or if it's even true. I mean, who knows if it's true or not? Is there any proof that it's true? They have like emails where he said that, or is it just he said, she said type of thing?
That's not something we can know unless the the discovery process or the trial becomes more public.
Yeah.
But it's certainly it's surprising to me, especially and I don't know what happened to that person, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting.
I have a feeling that we may never hear any of the details about it because
that screams settle out of court. obviously.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say is like if it turns out that Valve does its own internal investigation and finds out that it's true, Valve will probably just settle.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think that if is true that manager is not going to be there much longer.
Oh, if it's true, I'm sure he'll be let go or whatever. But
because that company is really good about taking care of its people. I remember there was a story about I think Eric Walpaugh, the writer of Portal and a bunch of other stuff. He's been there forever, and like it was some medical thing, and he was like, "Oh, I think this is going to knock me out or whatever." It was going to be a bad medical situation. I don't remember what the details were, but basically he was going to have to have 3 months of procedure or whatever, or something like that. I can't remember the details, so I don't want to get it totally wrong.
Yeah.
But basically, like Gabe said, well, do whatever you need to do, and we'll see you back at work when you're ready.
Yeah.
Like I don't care how long it takes. Like you're great, and we want you, and come back, and you always have a job here. And he walked out of that thinking like, well, I guess this is where I work forever.
That's the kind of stuff that I've always heard about Valve. Always. Like this came as a huge shock to me to see this. So that's why I'm kind of wondering: is it true? Is it not true? I mean.
That's a hard thing to screen for.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff you don't. That kind of prejudice. It's very hard to know if someone holds those views until it's in front of you. And
it's also a touchy thing
until the situation arises. Like you can't really say one way or the other.
And it's a touchy thing to even talk about. In all honesty, I mean, it's just one of those things that it's like you really got to think about your words carefully. And so I hope it's not true. I have a lot of respect for Valve. I don't want to lose a little bit of that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, at the same time, it's going to matter. The litmus test will be how they deal with it if it turns out to be true. I wouldn't want to think that someone with those views would be tolerated around Valve because I think they're better than that. So.
Agreed. Yeah. So another thing we want to talk about, we kind of mentioned already, No Man's Sky delayed. Matt, do you think that's a big deal?
It's a big deal for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obviously for anyone who wants to play it.
I don't think enough people in the main, the people that would make this like a multi-million seller hit, like they don't even know that game exists yet. So I don't think it matters in terms of like market
the big picture
impact. But I must reiterate my comment on the Sifted story about it from earlier today. Motherfucker!
It sucks.
That's what I was going to do the week after E3. That was my carrot on the end of the E3 stick.
Yeah.
All the shit we go through during E3 week, I was going to be like, well, next week I'm playing No Man's Sky. Everything's going to be okay. Now it's next week I'm doing nothing.
Not only that, like No Man's Sky is a perfect game for that.
Yes.
Because it's like one of those games that kind of takes you away.
Yeah.
Then whisks you off to this far-flung place where...
I don't have to live on this planet anymore in 4 more days.
I'll have my choice of the galaxy.
Yes. Now we must wait until, I don't know, it sounds like a couple months.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't think the delay...
It's not a terrible delay, but like, I don't really usually care about delays, but in the case of this game, like, that's been my most wanted game for like 2-3 years now. So it's like on one hand, it's like, what's another 2 months?
Yeah.
Make it better, make it polished, make it good. The old Miyamoto quote, a bad game is forever, but a delay is temporary.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want it now. Damn it.
Like the blurb said on Sifted for the story, though, it is probably the least surprising delay of any delay that could happen. An open world game with these types of possibilities made by an indie developer, a team of 10 or 11, probably a little bigger now. I'm guessing it probably is bloated for crunch to get it done.
Yeah, I would think so.
But they
started with 4.
Right. But a very small team of guys, like, it kind of, the ball was kind of put on the tee there to drive it onto the green as far as the delay is concerned.
Certainly an ambitious project to follow Joe Danger 1 and Joe Danger 2.
It really is. It's crazy that's what they went from.
From listening to, was it Sean Murray? Is that the head of Hello Games? To hear him talk, it sounds like they're like, I think we could do this.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's try it.
Let's try that. Let's try to do this thing that no one has ever managed to do before. Yeah. And so we'll see.
I really do appreciate and love the attitude of that studio. Like every interview that they do, like they're not like cagey. They're not, for a while there, and myself included, a lot of people are like, oh, they're trying to hide something. Like, why won't they talk about like how the game plays? And the fact of the matter is, like, when they were asked about it, they did tell people how it played. Yeah. And they haven't been cagey or trying to be like avoid the tough questions about it.
And they've been very willing to just kind of bring it and show it. I mean, they clearly
and they've showed a ton of it.
And they clearly use like pre-established planets for it that they know are going to give them what they they want to show that you mine this stuff and then you dig into the rock and you get into a cave and then it's not cold there so you don't die and and so clearly they're to some degree controlling these demos.
Yeah.
But like everything I see looks great, and
they
I like,
did
and I
let-
love that there's like that survival element to it that like I always think is appealing in a game, but then a lot of times I play these survival games and I'm just like, this is just irritating, and like, and so I hope that they've balanced it well enough that that's not going to be a problem in this game. But I don't know, I might play this game and the survival stuff might just get on my nerves in an hour, and I might just walk away. I don't know, like that's happened before to me in survival type games, but I hope not.
Now, to be fair, they did let IGN play it. IGN had, you know how IGN does like its monthly like exclusive thing called IGN
IGN had a
First?
lot of great coverage on that. Was that April they did that?
Last month,
yeah. They did a lot of great stuff on that. I learned a lot watching those videos. So.
Yeah, and I mean, they let them just play it.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's been walled off and no one's been able to touch it and experience it. Although,
and
I've yet to play it.
Right.
You're yet to play it. It's never been on the floor of a
I'll give you 3 guesses.
convention.
I'll give you 3 guesses who I'm looking for at E3 first.
Yeah. You think it'll be on the floor?
No, but I bet I can find Sean Murray if I look hard enough.
Be hitting up that PR desk at Sony's booth. All right, let's move on. Another small topic we wanted to talk about. Prey 2. It's a
back in action.
Video game zombie. It's back to life. It's been reinvigorated. Do you think this is a good thing?
I don't know.
Looks like a new studio's working on it.
I really liked what the concept of it when they showed it back. What was that, like 2011, 2010?
Yeah,
it was a while ago.
Right. Yeah,
and like it looked really cool, but like it just then it turned out it was vaporware. The video they showed was not in any way real. It was
that's not true.
No.
So the last year before it got canned.
I thought that was all like Target stuff.
No, I saw a demo of the game at Judges Week. It was either 2010 or 2011. Like Judges Week, Bethesda always has an event at Judges Week where literally they cram like 80 journalists into a closet, and you sit there and sweat your ass off while they show you games. Well, one of the games that they showed us was Prey 2, and they showed a demo of the game being played. We didn't get to see a lot of the stuff that's in the trailer that you're seeing right now. What we saw was a pretty limited scope, but it did look impressive considering the first game, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
Like the first game had all that hype and it came out and it wasn't bad. It was just.
But you got to wonder why is this even called Prey 2?
Yeah. It really has very little to do with the original.
It's not. I don't see a lot of interdimensional portals with Native American protagonists being abducted by aliens in this one.
Other than Turok, yeah. I mean, there's 2 games that are like that. There's Turok and there was the first Prey. That is just a really bizarre. I wish I were in the pitch meetings for the first Prey to see how they convinced a publisher to sign on for that game.
Turok plus Portal, but before Portal.
Yeah.
How pissed must the guys who made Prey be about Portal? It's just like,
Yeah.
if we just put the portals in a gun, that's all we needed to do. Oh, we made it part of the environment. We're so stupid. It was right there.
I enjoyed the first Prey.
It was fine.
It had unique concepts. It just wasn't exceptionally polished.
No, but there was a lot of cool ideas, and it was one of the first shooters to really play with the physics. Beyond and Deus Ex Invisible War did that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of that period where people were sort of experimenting with the Havoc stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a fun time.
For sure. Let's move on to the last thing we're going to talk about before we get to the Big Six. So this week, the publisher of Stellaris, Paradox Interactive, who I want to give a shout out to, because to me they're one of the publishers on the rise. It all started with Cities, and Cities did really well. They've had 3 hits in a row.
And don't they publish Magicka as well?
They do.
Yeah, they've got a lot of good stuff.
Stellaris has done amazing.
Those guys are so good at picking winners.
Out of a pile of crap.
Yeah.
They find somehow they find the needle in the haystack. I mean, I would give an honorable mention as well to Devolver, who is also
is great
doing
stuff
a great
too.
job with indie stuff. But Paradox, more props to them, because what happened was somebody went out and modded Stellaris and basically made every character in the game white.
Wow.
Took all the ethnicity out of the game, and somehow Paradox caught wind of it and went in and nixed the mod, crushed the mod, so that it can no longer be downloaded and played. Kudos to Paradox Interactive. Because, look, a lot of publishers might just turn the blind eye to this and ignore it. And
community's going to community kind of thing,
Because there's a fear, right? It's like,
right.
Well, it's like the Donald Trump thing that's going on right now. I don't want to get in politics, and I'm not really political at all. I actually hate politics. But you see, people doing the same thing with, Trump. They realize that they may need him at some point, so they don't want to completely, distance themselves from him. But at the same time, they know that it's not popular opinion to ride along with him, so they kind of keep him at arm's length. This publisher could have done that.
Yeah.
Because it could have been oh man, if we pull this mod, that segment of people may come after us or boycott us or start some stupid petition or whatever. they manned up and nixed the mod. So, good job, Paradox.
Yep.
I got to say. And
man, that says a really disturbing thing about because that game takes place in the far future. So it's like, that says a really disturbing thing about the modders' preferred future.
Well, the truth of the matter is, in the far future, everyone will be the same color.
Yeah, but they're going to
it won't be white.
It won't be white, yeah. It'll be a nice, pleasing shade.
We will be a shade, yeah, definitely. I mean, millions of years from now or whatever, if the planet's still here, most of us will all be about the same color, and it's not going to be white. So, yeah, props to Paradox. With that, it's time to get to the Big Six. All right, so we've talked about Overwatch before. I was in the closed beta for quite a while, and I came on the show and gushed about it. Final game came out a day early, which is awesome. I love that Blizzard was cool with retailers breaking street date.
It was like, whenever you get it, put it out.
Didn't help the servers, though.
No, not so much.
But
I appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah. I kind of figured when you do that like legal street date break, that it would kind of dovetail the users onto your servers. It would be a nice smooth ramp up, and they'd be able to kind of judge how it's ramping up, and not the case at all. Like the first couple of days, the servers were pretty rough, which to me is a huge surprise, considering where this game's coming from.
I'm still having some trouble getting into games on PS4.
Really?
Not
like matchmaking problems, or
I just
like timeouts.
Not timeouts. Once I'm in the game, it's fine. But like between rounds, or when I'm trying to search for a game, like I'll sit there for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, which is like really weird to me for a game that clearly is done well and is on. Everyone's playing. So what else are you doing? You're playing online, and and especially after matches, like everybody will just kind of disperse somehow, and like we'll get like I get migrated to different different instances a lot. And it was just surprising. Like usually, like you don't have a problem with like multiplayer games like launch week getting into games over and over again. And this one, at least on PS4, I mean, I've heard it's very platform specific. Like I don't know if that's a problem on the PC at all. But and I picked the PS4 version because I haven't played a mouse and keyboard shooter in so long. I figured the PC players would just destroy me.
I played the beta on PC. I'm playing for review on PlayStation 4.
And PlayStation 4 is good, but like I've noticed like a couple times I'm just like I'm waiting a long time to get into a match like on launch week.
Yeah.
And I figure that's some kind of like minor glitch in there somewhere.
Well, on the flip side,
because once I'm in a game, it's great. Like it's no problem.
On the flip side of that, and a little bit of a tangent, like I've been playing Doom for review, and I've been playing a lot of the multiplayer because I feel like you need to. And man, the online audience for that game in the span of a week has just fallen off the map. I mean, that's a pun for Doom. Fallen off the map, which is something you can actually do in Doom, which you can't do in other multiplayer games. But literally last night, I was having problems getting like team deathmatch games.
Wow.
Like literally sitting there for like 5-6 minutes, like waiting for it to fill up, and it would get half full, and then people would get tired of waiting, and they drop, and you just then you'd leave and go out, and like I was really shocked to see, because I'm having fun with the multiplayer. It's nothing mind-blowing or groundbreaking, but it's still fun. But yeah, that audience has completely fallen off, whereas Overwatch is bursting at the seams and for all intents and purposes. So we both spent some time playing the final version. I will say that, again, I played PC before, now I'm playing PS4. I don't see many changes at all from when I played the closed beta to what I'm playing in the final version. Review scores for this game through the freaking roof.
Yep.
Like the first 2 reviews that we curated to Sifted were perfect 10s. 9.25 from Game Informer. I mean, how are you feeling, Matt, having spent some time with it now?
I like it. I love the character designs. I love the art style. I'm having fun. I'm playing Farah and Mercy mainly with some stop-offs. I played with a couple of the tanks, Reinhardt and stuff, but I'm mostly going back to Farah. And
I play as Soldier 76. Everybody hates him for some reason.
Because he's the standard like Call of Duty guy.
I guess so, yeah.
But so I've been enjoying it. The matches are super fast paced. The characters are all different. Like
it's so fast.
You got to keep in mind. You got to keep in mind what everybody can do when you're fighting them and all. It's got a little bit of fighting game to it, and I like that. My main thing at this point is like I kind of feel like the game's shown me everything it's got in terms of like there's the capture the zone mode, there's the escort the thing mode, and there's the capture the zone so you can escort the thing mode.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, well, like there's a lot of variety in character and map, but I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over anyway.
Yeah.
I'm also only playing solo because like everybody I know has like everybody picked different platforms for this one. Like I don't have a coherent group to play with in that. So there's like some people on PS4, some people on Xbox One, some people on PC. So like I'm kind of soloing it for the most part, especially because I'm playing late and. Like I've probably put like 6 or 7 hours into it, and I'm kind of like I'm not a huge competitive multiplayer shooter guy, and it's not enticing me to keep coming back. And I hate to be the whole like oh it should have a campaign, but it should fucking have a campaign.
I agree.
Those characters are so good looking and so cool, and like that world is so interesting, and those cinematic trailers and stuff are so involved. Like I love all those things. I'm like, why aren't you giving me more of that?
Yeah.
Like why isn't that also there?
I don't get it either. Like they've created this incredible universe. They've already crafted several interesting stories and great backstories for several of the characters. Like I already care a lot about these people, whatever, aliens, whatever the hell they are, and there's no way to sort of become gratified through the game.
And I don't like to, be all like, oh, the game should be like this when they weren't even trying to make it like that. But that's kind of like, the sifted review evaluation system is set up to take that into account.
It is, yeah.
And I think it's a valid thing on this game, and like there's been a lot of parody of, people like, oh, The Witcher 3 is terrible because it doesn't have multiplayer. Well, it's not really the same thing, is it? Like, it's not like The Witcher 3 has a combat system that you just are begging to play against another person with. Yeah. But Overwatch, I'm like, I really want to see more of this world and see more of these characters because it's so well realized.
Yeah.
My girlfriend loves a bunch of the characters, and she if they put those action figures out, she'll buy them. Trust me. But she doesn't want to play the game because she doesn't like multiplayer shooter games. And this
is probably the last multiplayer shooter game you'd want to play if you don't normally play them either.
Oh yeah, this one's for people that know what they're doing.
It's really comcomplicated,
and like every character, like between the whole, the roster of characters is gigantic. And the funny thing is when you play the different ones, you're like, oh, this is like that shooter that's like, they kind of all they hit all the different forms of shooter gameplay you can imagine all in one game.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how they've synthesized that, and it's pretty well balanced. I know there's people that think like Winston is super crazy overpowered and all that, but like I haven't really run into moments where I'm just like, there's nothing we can do now. Even with like crazy pickup teams that everybody's just an assault guy and there's no balance to the teams. But like I haven't felt like I've just been steamrolled yet.
Well, at least with this game, you don't have to worry about the whole League of Legends thing that I've mentioned before, where they put out the new character and make them OP so everybody buys them because the characters and the maps are going to be free, which they better be because
they better stick to that.
If you're paying this much money for a multiplayer-only game, like, that has no campaign, like, that's a lot of money to ask for a game that's just online multiplayer. Like, as good as it is, and it is amazing, still, that's a tough ask.
Yeah, and I'm not the best, to ask about that, maybe, because, like, that kind of gameplay doesn't grab me to begin with. This one has grabbed me more than usual, but I'm still kind of waiting for a game like this that really hooks me, and this one isn't quite there. I wish the game modes were a little more involved. Not as involved as Battleborn, because like we talked about before, I think Battleborn is hard to keep track of everything because it's it's a MOBA, but like from a very limited perspective. Oh, and by the way, that game I talked about that was like from like years and years ago that was like an RTS, but you could play on the ground and one person was like the commander, Savage.
Yeah.
That went up as a Savage Resurrected on Steam this week.
Oh, wow.
There's a new version of that game 13 years later.
Wow.
That they're like,
what timing?
I know. It's like they saw the same thing I did, I guess. It was like, oh, this is our time. Let's go, And so yeah, that's up on Steam if anybody wants to give it. It's just like early access right now, but if anyone wants to take a look at the videos, like that's the game I was talking about, and it's back again. But like I wish there was kind of a happy medium between Overwatch and Battleborn in terms of the complexity of what you're doing in a match.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Battleborn's too much.
It is too much.
Even for someone who plays MOBAs, and obviously not MOBA shooters, but just MOBAs in general, even I playing that game was like, what?
But there's tons of great things in Overwatch. The play of the game thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the voting on who your favorite player was. I mean, all that's. I mean, the trappings are great.
The community part of it is.
Yeah, it feels
good. But in Blizzard, like, they know how to do that stuff, man. Like, they know how to get you sucked into a community around a game and make you a part of it.
It's got that. I mean, it has that feeling of like. it's sort of, I always make the comparison to movies where you watch a really good movie like The Godfather or something, and you feel like you're held by like a master of the craft, you know.
Yeah.
And like Blizzard games have that. The great Blizzard games have that feeling where you're like, oh, every single part of this game feels solid. It feels like it's here for you. It feels like it's got a purpose. And Overwatch has that feeling to it.
I can't remember the last time I played a Blizzard game that I didn't think was great. Even Heroes of the Storm, while I don't like a lot of the changes that it made to the MOBA formula, it kind of had to.
Yeah.
If it wanted to be successful, because if you just try to recreate League of
Yeah, it'd be
Legends or
different,
Dota, you have no chance. So, despite that fact, it is a quality game.
Yeah.
Like,
well, just like, even when Diablo 3 was in pretty rough state when it launched, it was still fun. It was still good.
Yeah.
And then Reaper of Souls. That game on PS4 was so good.
Yeah.
Like the update on that, they really made Diablo 3 into a great game.
They did. That played well with the controller.
Yeah, I think better.
Yeah, I don't know if I go that far, but
I enjoyed it more with a controller. In fact, I would play it on PC with a controller if I could.
Wow.
I don't know if you can do that or not. I don't know if they.
I'm sure. It's Blizzard. They
never...
let you do whatever you want. That's
True.
why they're so great.
True.
Like, you come up with something, they're like, yeah, we'll do that.
And
really listen to
and
the
Hearthstone,
fans.
I don't play Hearthstone much. I've only played Hearthstone enough to know what it is.
I played it like 3 times.
But it still has that feeling. It feels chunky and real and thick. You know, it's really a satisfying game. Even though I don't care about card games that much, it was a satisfying game to play when I was playing it, just so I knew what I was looking at.
Yeah, for sure. Well, here's one thing I would say is, when I first played Overwatch in the closed beta, it felt more to me like a MOBA and like a character-driven game. Now that I've played it more, the final version, I've actually put a big chunk of time into it at this point, I feel like it's a lot more like Team Fortress 2. Like, to me, it kind of is Blizzard's take on Team Fortress 2. At least their attempt at it. I like it a lot better than Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because the character variety is more...
There's no comparison. And not only that, like, for having so many characters, I have not really found any, like, dupes. A character where like...
There's no Shota clones in this
Yeah,
one.
where they just, like, or a noob Cybot or whatever, like, where they just reskin this character and it basically has the same movesets, and you can, obviously, a tank is a tank. And there's certain strategies.
But those tanks all play very differently.
They do.
It's very impressive.
There are certain tenets to them
Right.
that you can take. You can absorb a lot of damage. You can deal a lot of damage. Sure, you have to have that. I mean, you have to have.
But the ways they do it are very different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so impressed, and just the fact that they developed every character. Like, there really isn't a character in that game that I look at and I'm like, ew. Like,
well, the other
with Battleborn, like almost all of them, I did that. So,
well, the other thing about Overwatch is. And I know, I think it was Cliff Bleszinski who used to say this, was like, one of the most important things in a multiplayer shooter is silhouette. Being able to read the silhouette. Being able to see that character and quickly identify just by its shape who it is, what the character is, what it can do, and what you need to be doing to fight it. And Overwatch is flawless.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
You can see a character like all the way on the other end of the visible map, and you know which character that is, and then you can start formulating your plan. Like, it's great. It's really well done.
Here's what I would also say about Overwatch, is that it's a game that's definitely not for everybody.
No, I would agree.
I mean, there are some people who won't even be able to play it if they don't have really good internet.
All you need...
They're living on DSL.
There's that too. That also. And I know there's the low tick rate people have been complaining about, where it only updates. It updates slower than your average shooter, like Battlefield 4 or Call of Duty. And I mean, I have seen that. I mean, I have gotten killed behind walls a couple times from that. I see that, but not nearly as often as in Battlefront, so I'm not really all that pissed about it, frankly.
I mean, look, Call of Duty has, its tick rate is like more than double Overwatch's. Yeah. But still, in Call of Duty, you see it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're like, wait a minute, like, I'm seeing one thing in live gameplay, and then I'm seeing another on the replay. Like, you get killed and you don't see anybody, and then you watch the replay, and they were like 5 feet away from you. And that's with a much better tick rate. So,
and I haven't really seen a lot of that in Overwatch. Not in comparison.
I mean, I've seen discrepancies.
Yeah.
Like, when you run into somebody and you're like, I won that duel, and then you watch the replay, and in the replay, you never even fired a bullet. Like, I've seen some stuff like that, but nothing like egregious, where I didn't see like the person at all and ended up dead or anything like that. So let's get back to the review scores for this. Perfect 10s. I mean, its average right now is way up there. Like, it might end up being beating Uncharted for Metacritic for 2016. Could you ever rationalize giving a multiplayer only game a score that high, Matt?
Me personally, no. because multiplayer just isn't what I'm here for.
Right.
You know,
but say if it were like a game that only has like it's really good in one element, but only has one element and is missing another chunk that you would kind of expect from a game, particularly at full price. Could you see giving a game a score that high? Not and ignore Sifted's game evals.
Right.
Just imagine you're back reviewing for GameSpot or IGN or whatever.
Not on a 100-point scale, I wouldn't think. Like, I mean, I don't know what a game that would get a 10 on like GameSpot's scale for me would be. Like, that's a hard thing to picture. There's not a lot of perfect games in the world. In terms of attempting to do what it sets out to do and succeeding at it perfectly, like Overwatch is pretty close, but again, I want a little more complexity out of it. I want a little more to do in the matches.
Because it's not just that you're missing out on campaign, you're also missing out on like co-op options and like, I mean, I'm playing Doom and like Doom has a snap map. Like, and man, I don't know if you've messed around with Doom snap map at all, but it is not exactly user-friendly. But you know, after I spent a couple hours with it, I got it, and I built a map. It's out there, Sifters. Just search for Sifted.net in the maps in Doom. It is a capture the flag map shaped like an S for Sifted. But, so I got it. I figured it out. It wasn't user-friendly, but I got it, and now I'm getting value out of that. Like a co-op mode you get value out of. This has none of those. So if you're talking about 3 pillars of a modern video game, it has one.
And does that one real well.
Really, really well, for sure. And then it's not an easy question to answer because
I also kind of understand like the temptation to give it that kind of a high score because it is so engaging and it feels so good.
Because the value for the game could still be far beyond other games that do have all 3 pillars.
I still feel like $60 was too much for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't all that much. It wasn't that much on PC. It was like 40.
Yeah, I think it was $40.
Which is more like what it should be.
That's where it should be, yeah.
I know you got a few extra skins or whatever when you bought it on PS4 or Xbox One, but I still don't feel like it was quite full price worthy in that regard. And I mean, obviously it's going to vary on how much you value competitive multiplayer versus other forms of gameplay, but I value competitive multiplayer, kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I value it a lot. I mean, I'm a big shooter guy, and I'll probably end up playing Overwatch for, months. I mean, I haven't quite hit the burnout stage yet because I feel like, I've mastered a couple. I haven't mastered.
I'll probably stick with it longer than I originally anticipated since I don't have No Man's Sky to play in a month.
Someone in the chat is saying Amazon dropped it. This is from Han Low Below. Or no, it's from Cheater Hater. Amazon dropped it to 50 right away. So that's good. That's good to know. Thanks for the heads up on that.
And how much was TF2 when it came out? TF2 was part of the orange box.
Yeah.
So it was
$10.
$10. I mean, yeah,
roughly.
So that and Portal were like the new content basically in there, which I thought was a pretty good deal.
The orange box is one of the best deals ever, man. It was like 5 slices of brilliance in on one disc. Yeah, I mean, that was a great deal.
But the other interesting thing I think is between Overwatch and Doom. I think I've discovered that it's not that I don't really like shooters anymore. It's just that I haven't liked the shooters people have been making for a while.
Yeah. Did you ever play through the Doom campaign by any chance?
I'm not done with it, but I'm about 2/3 through, I think.
In one sentence, what are you thinking?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Working on the game eval, by the way, it's almost done, but I have been putting a ton of time into
It is my surprise of the year.
And,
I did not expect anything. Maybe that helps. I didn't expect anything out of Doom because I'm not But I love it.
It reminds me a lot of Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
It was like a shooter that I had very, not low expectations for, but moderate expectations for, and then it definitely far exceeded what I...
Yeah.
And then,
And just like Wolfenstein, it takes the concept of that old game and really adapts it to the modern ideal very well. And Doom isn't the same game, but it does the same thing. It takes the Doom concept into 2016, and I love it. It's a lot of fun.
So getting back to Overwatch, so 10s. You'd have a problem giving this game a score that high?
I would definitely not give it a score that high.
Yeah, I would have big problems doing that as well. And look, I'm staring down the barrel at probably playing this game for several months. At least right now, that's where I'm feeling about it.
If it had a campaign that really involved me in the world and let me get to know the characters and kind of delved further into what we're seeing in those cinematic trailers, I feel like I would probably be in 10 range for it.
Here's what I would agree with that. Here's what I would say though about Blizzard is Blizzard's never made a game like that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's true.
It has never made a a story-driven campaign for a video game like this. Like, RTS games, sure. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, there's a story in Diablo.
There's a story, but it's like...
There's a story in Lost Vikings.
Yeah, but they've never done, like, a cinematic where you have to have all these
Right.
cutscenes and all these camera angles and all this. It's all
Yeah, Blizzard
it's
is
this
usually
whole-
like you've got the crazy opening cinema and the crazy closing
Right.
cinema, and maybe a few mixed in.
And
like
in between
like the
conversations.
StarCraft 2 was probably the closest they
Yeah.
got in that regard.
But they've never done anything like this, and so I
Yeah.
wondered if they just knew right out of the gate, like, look, if we're going to do something like this, it's going to set the game back a year.
I mean, maybe that's coming.
Could be.
And if the updates are free,
I have a feeling if they did that, that update would not be free.
probably not free.
It might,
But you
would
know
change
what?
your mind on that.
I would probably buy it,
Yeah.
even though I've already bought it.
Oh, yeah,
I would probably buy that just to have more of that world.
Yeah.
And I will buy those figures. Like, if you put
Yeah.
figures out, I'll buy out, like, half that cast. Like, they're so good. The
It's
designs
hard.
are so good.
It's hard for me to know if I would buy it right now because, like I said, like Blizzard doesn't have a lot of experience doing things like
Right.
that, and so I would probably.
But I also kind of trust Blizzard, especially after the Diablo 3 fiasco.
Yeah.
I think I trust Blizzard to not release something like that until it's ready.
Yep.
So if and when that happens, on board.
Yep.
For sure.
So Matt, who would you recommend Overwatch to?
Anyone willing to play first-person shooters?
Yeah.
Frankly, I mean, just at least to try it. I mean, it's very much the kind of the essence of what the multiplayer shooter experience is, distilled down to a really polished gem, I
Yeah.
would say. And while that may not be enough to, like, keep me engaged for months on end, because I just don't care about, like, the competitive scene that much. I think anybody who's willing to pick up, a mouse and a keyboard or a controller and shoot things with the crosshairs should at least give it a try.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, there's a character in there you're going to enjoy playing as, and like it's just so well polished and well put together. It's just such a satisfying game.
I'm a
to
little
play.
torn on it because I agree with pretty much everything you just said. But I also feel like it is a really complicated shooter. And so it's like this weird, it kind of contradicts itself a little bit because it has these great characters, like you said, that people are going to find at least one that they relate to and want to play as. So it is very inviting to someone who doesn't play a lot of shooters, or maybe a casual shooter fan. Like, I could see them seeing this and being like, this looks like it might be for me. But then you start playing it and you realize that it's far more complicated.
It does assume a lot of knowledge.
Than like a Call of Duty. Like so it would be hard for me to recommend, I guess what I'm trying to say is it would be hard for me to recommend this game as like a starter shooter for someone who doesn't play a lot of starter shooters, even though the game looks like an awesome like lollipop that they can't wait
and wants
to
to
eat.
position itself as that. Too,
Yeah, and it has, and it's
And
been
maybe
successful at
maybe
it.
my criticism of the lack of complexity in the matches is unfounded because there's so much complexity in the characters to learn the matchups basically. But as a fighting game player, like I picked up on that real fast.
Yeah.
And like so I guess and it's not like it's I guess it's a little weird for a fighting game player to like complain that like there's not enough to do in a match when like in a fighting game the whole match is you versus the other person.
Right.
And that's pretty much what Overwatch is too. But to me, I just wish we were doing other things. I don't even like Capture the Flag, but I play Capture the Flag on this. But then I wonder like how does Capture the Flag translate to a cast of characters that has all these abilities? That's all to balance this stuff and make it still remain satisfying and feel fair. Like that's probably a huge task that I'm completely underestimating.
Yep, for sure. It's kind of put me in this weird position. The other thing I would say too about it is that like I got an early review code of it, so I was able to get on as soon as the servers went live. And the skill level of the other players from that moment till last night has just shot through the stratosphere. And so, casual players trying to jump into this, like the longer it goes, the less inviting it becomes.
Well, and it's interesting.
Matchmaking can only do so much.
Well, and it's also interesting to see, like, because it seems to throw you in, like, matches with very new players early on and kind of build you up. When I first played, I played the tutorial thing and messed around in, like, kind of the free, where you free play and can just, like, blow the robot dummies up. And then I jumped into quick play, and I didn't die for 3 matches.
Wow.
My first game was a 35-game kill streak with no deaths. With
that's
Farah,
amazing.
With Farah, and once I got to like level 3, I think 4, it started putting me into matches with like people who are like level 4, like kind of 5 to 10 or so, and like
that's actually pretty good.
And like,
I mean, that's showing the matchmaking working well there.
Yeah, it did work, but like as soon as I hit that level, like I lasted like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden there were people who knew how to use their characters and knew how to play, and you could really see, you know, how the skill curve was working and how people were learning. And like as soon as you hit this, like, you know, people who had been playing it for a few hours, like everybody kind of figured some stuff out, and everybody was really competent with their characters, and it was a totally different game.
Yeah, and imagine the level 12.
Once you get
50.
way up, up to 50 and all that, yeah, it's going to be. I mean, I'm not a competitive tournament watcher for anything other than fighting games, but I'm really curious to watch some tournaments of Overwatch, because I think high level play in this game is going to be crazy.
Because there are like 5 layers to the onion in the game, man. Like there's just the base, run around and shoot other people, but there's so many other like little hidden mechanics, like
and the teamwork and the strategy of who picks what character.
Yeah, and building your team.
Building the team, like I'm sure there's going to be team builds that are better than others.
Yeah.
That, like, it's, you know, who knows? Who knows what's in this game?
By any chance, did you see the video that we curated to Sifted this week, like the Mythbusters thing from a YouTube channel, Defend the House?
No, I saw that pop up, but I haven't had time
Watch
to watch
it, man, because what that does, like we've actually,
that's a really good series.
We've actually curated that series a ton of times, and like it hasn't got a lot of interest. Like Sifters, you should watch those. Like they're good. Like that's one of those things we're probably going to keep curating as they do them. They do get a little bit out. They run out of like things to test after like the 3rd episode for each game. But the first couple episodes for each one are amazing. And we've been curating them for weeks. And finally, just yesterday, with this one for Overwatch, we finally saw all the websites like grabbing it and pulling it in and being like, hey, this is pretty awesome. So watch it, man.
Yeah. Like that's my favorite like, kind of series that's popped up since probably you know, like Did You Know Gaming?
Yeah.
And that's the Mythbusters thing is really cool. They
Yeah.
come up with some good things and they do it. Like,
well, it's because the users ask the questions, and
Yeah.
they're typically players who are hardcore. But yeah, a really good series. You guys should watch it if you haven't already. You can find it on the Overwatch game page if you're looking for it. You don't want to scroll down your sift a long ways, because actually today was a great day for video game content. I don't know if you guys have been on the site or not, but lots of good stuff. And we're going to talk about some of the stuff that popped up today a little later in the show.
I do like what Eric Estrada 12 just said too, where he says the game has no context, where it's like you don't know who these people are, why they're fighting each other.
That's a really good point.
Why we're escorting this car over and over again. And like in comparison,
unless you watch like the crazy CG shorts,
right.
like you have no idea.
And like, you know, Winston has the whole thing where he kind of explains what Overwatch is, but like, why are we all fighting each other? And you know, I guess there's some kind of but it's like, yeah, if you hadn't watched the PR campaign leading up to the game's release, you're going to jump in and be like, what the hell? You know?
Which, I mean, let's be honest, like most people who buy games didn't.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
sure.
People like us, we're not the majority. We're the niche minority.
Well,
very proud to be that.
Oh, yeah, but it's like you have to recognize that most people don't know these major entertainment products of any kind are coming out until maybe a month out when they start running the commercials on the NBA games and the NFL games.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It was like last year when, you know, I watch football on Sundays at one of my friends' places, and he's huge into Star Wars. He used to be part of the 501st, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we all sit around and we watch football, and we argue about Star Wars and Marvel movies and DC movies and everything, and you know, other people come over that are not like super hardcore, but like at one point, like right before Thanksgiving, I remember one of the first commercials aired on one of the NFL games for Star Wars Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And this one of the people who attends regularly was like, "Oh wow, they're making a new Star Wars movie," and we're like, "Where have you been for the last like 3 months?" When we're done. And but like I was arguing exactly what you're saying for weeks. I'd been arguing. I'm like, no, people that aren't us don't know these things are going to happen. They don't know until they start seeing the ads. And like she just completely proved my point for me. I was like, she had no idea a new Star Wars movie was coming out, and we'd been talking about it for 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and
it's
the thing about it is that like you know, people like us, we are friends with other people like us, and so you're kind of insulated from like, for lack of a better term, the common man.
Right.
Like what the rank and file are typically doing. And like, yeah, you're right. Sometimes stuff like that happens. They just like, psh, psh, like a big old like wake up call. You're like, whoa, maybe I'm weird. Like, why do I know all this stuff? And these other people don't even know that the movie's even being made. Like, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
No.
I mean, I love knowing all this stuff, but
it's to me like it's like when you can start talking hockey like right before the show, and like you and Sam are throwing back and forth names and events and games and seasons, and I'm just like,
you surprised me.
The Sharks are in the cup.
You
That's all I got.
surprised me with your knowledge, actually, of the Sharks. I was
I
impressed.
try to know a little bit about everything, but that's about as far. You've now experienced the extent of my hockey knowledge.
Well, you knew that their reputation is that they're chokers.
Right.
Which, for someone who doesn't like hockey...
That's what I said. I said whoever wins this game gets to beat the Sharks for the Stanley Cup.
Which I completely disagree with, by the way. But
I would
but
like
he's right.
I would like to disagree. I'm from the Bay Area. I'd like
Yeah.
to see the Sharks win, but I even as a very casual hockey fan, not even fan, I'm just a hockey-aware person. I've seen it too much, and I have friends who are super hardcore Sharks fans, and they're all they're rooting for them,
cautiously
but
optimistic.
they're tempering the expectation. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not admitting it, but they're ready for them to get to win 3 games and then lose 4. Let's put it that way.
But this is a great analogy for Overwatch. It's like, there's a lot of people who will look at this game who are maybe more casual players, like the people we were just talking about who didn't know Star Wars was being made.
But those are the people who make these games 10 million sellers.
They are, exactly.
Who make these movies billion-dollar movies. You have to engage those people to be a hit.
Yeah. And so I worry for those people a little bit because I feel like, it's kind of like the Bloodborne thing that I was talking about way back when was, some people may... see all the hype and all the whatever and not really realize what the game is. And then they get it and they're like, oh no, what have I done? I just burned $60 or whatever. So.
Penguins won, by the way.
They did?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah! Damn. Yes!
Congratulations, Pittsburgh.
Woo! I'm sorry. I know some of you guys watch this, you don't care about hockey or sports or whatever, but I can't hold that in.
Anyone who subscribes to Sifted likes to see Shane happy.
I am happy right now, man.
Father Shane is ecstatic.
What was the
Blessings
final?
upon you.
That better not be... Oh, they said there's 5 seconds left. No, they won 2-1. Yes! We're going to the cup. Yes! Yes! All right. The rest of the show's going to be awesome now. You thought I had energy before, you just wait. So yeah, I can see some parallels kind of between Overwatch and Bloodborne, and that some people might get sucked in. With Bloodborne. Because Bloodborne is like this game that got really great reviews, and a lot of people are hyping it up, saying how great it is, and for a casual person, someone who may not know the next Star Wars is even being made, who sees it, maybe talks to a couple of their gamer friends, buy it, and then they're like, holy cow.
That's a tough one to walk into blind.
It is. And I feel like Overwatch could be like that a little bit. It's certainly a lot more. Look, Bloodborne's the extreme example here. It's certainly way more inviting than, Bloodborne is, and a little more easy to digest. But I can kind of see the parallels there. So
the other thing about Overwatch is normally after a while I stop being tolerant of dying. I start, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
But Overwatch, especially with the kill cam, for a lot of times I find myself going all right, that was pretty good. People find such clever ways to kill each other in this game that with their different abilities and different stuff. There was one point where we were exiting onto on this bridge thing, and someone was the ice girl, the girl who can project ice on stuff.
I don't remember.
And she threw this ice bridge, the ice wall up on the bridge, and we all sort of collision detected off the bridge and fell to our deaths. And I was like, well played. All right. I don't know if you knew that was going to happen, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Don't do it again.
So I guess to kind of close things off, at least my impression so far, and again, my game eval's coming, I think a lot of people are looking at this game as, I'm not into shooters, but this might be a shooter that I would like. Mm-hmm. I think that they might like it. I think they might ultimately be really frustrated by it, though, if they're not used to playing a lot of shooters.
Especially for full price.
Yeah.
If you can find a deal on it, I would say, that it's kind of adjust your expectations by how much you spend.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that for the most part.
Yep. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to convert anybody who's not been a shooter fan. So,
I wouldn't say so.
So if you're in that camp where you're like, I haven't bought a shooter for a long time, maybe Overwatch is the one, I would
play Doom.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Frankly.
That is a really good point. I think Doom is probably the better choice there. It's much more straightforward, though Doom is pretty complicated too.
Doom is no pushover, but I think Doom is a little easier to kind of get your mind around.
I haven't found Doom to be hard. What I've found is that there's a lot of luck involved in Doom. Mm-hmm. You can boot up the same checkpoint over and over and play it 5 times in a row, and The first time you played it, you almost beat it. The second time, you die in 10 seconds. The third time, you're like 2/3 of the way to getting to the next checkpoint.
Yeah, I've had that where it was like
you can just get
run into these,
swarmed.
you run into these things and you're like, oh my god, how am I going to beat that room? And you walk in after the checkpoint, it's like dead.
Yeah.
What happened last time? Why did I die?
Because sometimes you just get trapped in a corner.
Sometimes you get trapped. Sometimes your aim's better. Sometimes you hit hard. There must be some kind of critical hit system happening where sometimes these guys.
Well, it's like they said, if it has a head,
right,
that's its weak point. That's the rule for the whole game.
You can't always guarantee that a demon's going to have a head.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. All right, let's move on to the next topic of the Big Six. I'm so damn happy the Penguins won, by the way. If they had lost while I was sitting here, I would have just been completely depressed. So, all right, next we're going to talk about something that's been swirling around actually for quite a while. Part of it has been swirling around for a while. New Xbox at E3. We've heard that. I think have we ever done a topic about it on the show?
I don't think so, but it's been floating around.
I think maybe
for a
we
while.
mentioned off the top of the show at one point or another.
There's been chatter about it, but I don't think there's been a solid rumor that like a leak or anonymous source whatever thing yet until now.
And so that's been confirmed, but the other far more interesting part of it is that yesterday and today. So yesterday Kotaku broke a story. Great job Kotaku again. Like I said, they're like the real news sleuths in this industry, doing it again. They broke a story yesterday saying that their sources said that not only is there a slim Xbox One that's going to be unveiled at E3, there is also a brand new hardware revision coming next year. So then today, Polygon follows up on Kotaku's story and starts talking to its sources, and its sources said that the Xbox One that's coming next year is 4 times more powerful than PlayStation 4 Neo. But then I saw other people were reporting 50%. Like, here's the thing. How do you ever quantify 4 times more powerful than, like, a system? Like, you really
Especially
can't.
in a modern
Yeah, it's impossible.
Like you're down to benchmarks of similar games or the same games, and I doubt anyone's made that, comparison yet.
That said, there is a huge discrepancy between 4 times and 50%.
Yeah.
And so the story that Polygon ran today also said that it's doing this so that it will be compatible with Rift, Oculus Rift, which makes sense. Like, you would basically have to.
Does it? Have enough people bought Rift to
No,
warrant
not
doing that?
not that part of it. Just the power part of it.
Right.
Meaning
It
that
makes
would
sense
need to
need
be
that for the
several
Rift.
magnitudes more powerful for the Rift to work
Right.
with it in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So that part of it, I can believe that it needs to be more powerful 4 times. I don't really believe
Probably
that.
not 4 times,
Yeah.
but like a 50% boost over the PS Neo, like that seems about right.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Neo is already
pretty beefy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even a 50% bump over the Neo is a pretty big freaking deal. I mean, basically, we're talking about like Xbox One, 2 now.
Kind of, but at the same time, it's like, what do you have that I need if I have a Windows machine?
Yeah. Well, because the other thing that came out...
Because I don't think they care anymore.
The other thing that came out, I think it was today, maybe yesterday, is that pretty much every Xbox One exclusive going forward is going to come out for PC.
So it's like, I don't need an Xbox anymore.
I mean, Matt, haven't we just reached the point where we're just buying PCs, shuttle PCs?
Well, I mean, we always were, to some degree.
I don't know about that.
It just was,
I mean, the cell processor is something that was never in a PC.
Right, but I mean, you were basically buying different iterations of hardware, and they're all computers. I mean,
right.
It was just a different market.
Look, they all have CPUs, GPUs,
right.
RAM.
Right, but once they got online, once they became updatable, once they became, the obsession with having parity and performance parity with PC and everything became kind of like this giant circle. And especially once Nintendo dropped out of that part of the race, like the lines have blurred, and now I think you're left with, you've got a Windows machine and you've got a thing you play Sony exclusives on.
Well, I mean, look, they must always used to have custom parts.
Yeah.
Consoles. And up until this generation, even, like, a lot of them still had...
Oh, the PS3 was one giant custom disaster.
Everything,
basically.
Yeah, which is why it costs $599
And why you're never probably going to see an emulator for it.
But, I mean, look, you can even go back to, like, the ART-X chip in the N64, like, blast processing with...
That wasn't a thing.
But before, it was like you had to learn how to program specifically for that platform. And now, it's all the same. These machines are all built with off-the-shelf parts, like... are we getting to a place where there's really no point in even naming these anymore?
Probably.
Really, shouldn't it just, at this point, just be called the PlayStation and the Xbox?
I mean, you'll have to designate them something, just like the iPhone, because...
Just call it Mach 2, Mach 3.
Yeah, you're just going to have iterations of them. It's not really going to matter. You're not
it's all going back to my whole idea of the modular console, where you snap your components.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing, years. PlayStation 2015, PlayStation 2016. Because that's what it's going to come down to, is what year model you have.
Yeah, it really is. As long as they make sure that the prior machine stays backwards compatible.
Makes you wonder if they had that in mind when they called it Xbox One.
It could be, because they knew it was going to be the one that lasted forever.
Yeah, because we don't know. It still looks like we're going to get the PS9 a lot faster than I thought at this rate. I mean, it makes sense. It's also kind of sad to me in the sense that we've, as having consoles my whole life, watching that method of delivery is sort of sad to see it fade away. I think it became inevitable, not just when everything became off-the-shelf parts, but also when the budgets of these games got so crazy that, you can't afford to have a bomb now. It has to be a hit on every platform. You have to put it on every platform. You need a wide enough audience that you have the best shot at making your money back and making a profit, and making enough of a profit that you're going to be able to make another game to stay in business.
Well, look at Uncharted 4. There's a good example of that. Huge first week. Second week drop-off in Europe and Japan was extreme. But, Japan not so much, because pretty much everyone who owns a console in Japan owns a PlayStation 4. But in Europe, it's kind of spread out a little more with Xbox One and Wii U. And to see that big of a drop there kind of shows you that, not everybody, even though as dominant as the PlayStation 4 is, not everybody owns a PlayStation 4. And so when you have that game on one platform, the risk of it having a great opening week and then kind of falling off later on is much greater. So, yeah, it's really tough to create exclusive games. And so on so many levels...
It's crazy to look back on 16-bit era and think about how many games were only on one system.
Yeah.
And it's just not feasible now.
Look, Microsoft's strategy makes perfect business sense. The problem is that that's not how they sold the machine to people when it was first shown. That's the issue. Now that I've owned one, and I've kind of got my value out of my Xbox One, probably not quite yet, because I really only play exclusives on it at this point. But, you start going back and you start looking at it, and it's well, if you out of the gate told me, look, a lot of these games are going to come to Windows 10, I probably still would have bought an Xbox One anyway. Or would I, now that I'm thinking about it?
It's a good choice if you don't want to spend the money on a powerful gaming rig. It's
I guess it's kind of like the discount way to play.
Yeah, but it's and there needs to be something like that. But for me, who has a competent gaming PC, I really want to play Scalebound, but if that's going to be on Windows 10, I'm just going to play it on Windows 10. It's going to look better. It's going to run better, and what's the difference? And on top of that, the Xbox One has been having trouble even running stuff in full resolution since the beginning. So I don't see the point of it anymore. I mean,
the one thing I would say
and this is coming from someone who's a really hardcore 360. 360 was my system, man.
It was everybody's system. I mean, that's just the way it was pretty much.
But I will always go where the experience is better. And in this case, I can get a better... Xbox at least had the exclusives versus the PC versions of 360 games or what have you. And now you're at the point where it's well, if I can get a better version of Scalebound or Forza or Quantum Break or whatever, why wouldn't I?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say about Xbox One is you try to buy a comparable shuttle PC for the same price, you're not going to get the same performance that you get out of Xbox One.
No.
So as far as that, if you're just looking at Xbox One as a PC in a little box, it's a pretty good value.
Yeah.
The kit that you're getting, and the reason you get that, and Pactor said this on Pactor Factor before, is because they buy the parts in bulk, and so they can get the card and the CPU and the GPU really cheap, and so that gets passed on to you as a consumer. And unfortunately, these Steam machines or whatever shuttle PC company you want to talk about, they don't do that kind of volume. They don't get that price, which is why their prices are a little higher. So, but that is an interesting way to look at Xbox One going forward, is look at it as a shuttle PC that you're getting a good deal on, and it's not a mega powerful shuttle PC, but it looks plenty good enough.
Yeah, you're basically looking at a Windows box at this point.
But, that to me should have been, and look, it could be a shift in strategy, it could be something
I think it is.
It probably is, when seeing how Xbox One's doing, seeing how their software is doing, because they know as better than anybody, Microsoft does, that software is where you make all your money. They know that better than anyone. So it's not a shock for me to kind of change, for them to see them change from that hardware to software mentality.
The shock for me is that like this paradigm shift kind of makes one of the major consoles useless to me.
It does.
And that's never
an
happened
amazing
before.
PC.
Like I've always had all the
I
consoles, even the Wii U. I mean, it took me a while, but I got one. I mean, I haven't passed on a major console, ever. I mean, even if it meant like going back later. I went back later and bought a TurboGrafx 16 and a bunch of stuff for the PC Engine and all that. But like there's just no reason for me to have an Xbox in the house. Not Xbox One, but like going forward, if that's what their strategy is, I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just not an Xbox customer anymore.
I'll put it to you this way, Matt. So when I thought my Xbox broke and I took it out of my entertainment center 3 weeks ago, I have not put it back in the entertainment center. It sat on the kitchen table for a week, and that's usually the breaking point for my wife, to where she's like, get that thing off of there. And once it sat there for a week, I took it and put it back in the back bedroom, and it's been sitting there. I have no reason to use it now. And looking at it going forward, do I have a reason to?
Not if everything's on Windows.
I mean, I've been going through and watching tons of 3D content because I can do that again because my Xbox One is out of the chain.
I mean, there's stuff on the Xbox One. I mean, I love Rare Replay. I like the Forza games.
Yeah.
I want to play Forza Horizon 3 this fall. I mean, unless there's a way better looking PC version, it's like, what do I do with that? Like, it's so weird. It's so weird that they've made. It's like they're making that system obsolete to me. I know I'm not the whole industry. I'm not the whole consumer base. There's tons of people that don't have a PC that can run things on that level, and an Xbox makes sense to them. But like, it's never happened to me before that I can look at a major console and be like, no, I don't need that. There's nothing I need to play on that.
And now let's look ahead to next year when this alleged beefy Xbox comes out or whatever. At that point, isn't it just competing with shuttle PCs? I mean, because at that point, everybody is going to know. Every Xbox One exclusive also comes out for PC. At that point, probably Gears of War 4 will have already come out for PC, which is really one of the last, other than maybe Scalebound, one of the last games that can really snag in people as an exclusive.
Well, I think their advantage there is that a lot more people know what Xbox is versus a Steam machine or a shuttle PC.
Sure.
Like there's still going to be some brand gravitation to that.
But I just find it funny that, this time next year on GameFace, we may be talking about, like, Xbox One 2 or whatever the hell it's called compared to, like, a Steam machine. Like, well, I can get the same performance over here for this amount of money, and what do I get in this one? Like,
well, it's going to be, this time next year, we're going to be in a very weird place. We're going to have a new PlayStation that may or may not be replacing the PlayStation 4. I know Pachter thinks it is.
Yeah.
It seems like the most logical move. We're going to have an upcoming or already here new Xbox that is apparently a power leap, but also an integration into the Windows 10 infrastructure more than its own system itself. We're going to have a new Nintendo console. Like, the whole landscape's going to be different.
The whole fabric's just going to be torn up.
Like,
I'm happy about that. It's exciting.
I mean, yeah, it changes and it's happening very fast.
Like, I like this whole 2-year console cycle thing. Like, as long as I can keep my old one and it still plays like the new games, granted it may be a lower resolution or frame rate, I'm totally okay with it. Like, it's exciting, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I know
we're watching a paradigm shift, and we know we're watching it, which is what makes it interesting.
A lot of times it catches you off guard,
and
you don't realize it until it's too late.
Wait a minute. Everything's online, and you're patching stuff on day one all the time, and everything I buy is pre-order DLC. When did that happen? Goddamn horse armor. Like that happened like in a really weird, gradual way, but this is just like, here it is. Like, here's a bunch of press conferences at E3 where we're going to announce all this shit that, like, you're going to either... You can buy it to have the best experience. You don't have to buy it. You're still going to have a good experience. It's a very different model, and it's weird to me after all these, after 30 years of, how consoles have always worked. But it's like it makes business sense, like you say.
Yeah, and so it's also,
does it make consumer sense?
I don't know. And there's one more angle of this I want to mention is that, like, do you think this was a part of Microsoft's plan? Ever? Or do you think that this is a knee-jerk reaction to all the rumors, and now pretty much confirmed rumors, about Sony's improved hardware?
I think it's kind of a mix. I wouldn't be surprised if this was sort of the plan from the beginning, but I bet it's a little sooner than they thought.
Yeah.
and maybe coming off of a less successful transition to the Xbox One, and most importantly, the Xbox One kind of environment, the OS, the user experience, where I think a lot of people still feel it's a fairly clunky way to use the system. And I know they're going to probably try to meld that or converge it with how Windows 10 functions. You're going to expect the Windows experience, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Hopefully better experience than the Windows Phone,
which is over,
which
now.
is gone.
Yeah.
This week, and so I feel like they could definitely be on a stronger footing here if they'd played their cards better, going into this generation. But I wouldn't surprise me if this was always part of the plan to kind of move to this more, Windows box model, especially because it seems like their original plan to move everything into this sort of walled off garden of digital purchases without used games and without all that stuff. It definitely seems like this was. It seems like an adapted version of that strategy, especially when you look at how Windows 10 sells you stuff.
Yeah. Here's what's really interesting too is just
And I don't know if they predicted the rise of VR.
Yeah, well, they definitely missed that.
In the way.
Well, I mean, they're working on an AR helmet that costs like a G. Like,
yeah.
I think they definitely missed that boat.
Yeah.
They did not get the memo on that one.
That one broke a different direction than they were expecting, I guess.
I think it definitely did. So I just find it interesting that not that long ago we were talking about how like the new head of Microsoft wasn't into Xbox, and no matter what, Xbox One was probably going to be the last console, and we've kind of seen that with them moving all their games to Windows 10, and it just all seemed like everything was just heading in that direction. Mm-hmm. Microsoft getting out of hardware, focusing on, admittedly, what it does great, which is software, but then this. It's like they got pulled back in again. Like,
I mean, part of me is just sort of looks at this and is like, who's that for? I mean, I know it's not for me. Is there someone else out there that wants to pay what is probably going to be a pretty high price for a very powerful system that has nothing you can't already play on a PC?
I mean,
that's where the shuttle PC comparison comes in, I know, because that's pretty much the same market. But hasn't that market proven to not be as large as they thought it was going to be?
Yeah. I mean, look, the Xbox market's shrinking like every day. I mean, Sony announced today 40 million PlayStation 4 sold. 40 million. Last time I got an estimate for Xbox, it was at like 18 or 19 million. I mean, it's just getting annihilated. And it's not picking up right now. I mean, the surest sign that a new Xbox is coming, at least the Slim at E3, is that every retailer now is liquidating Xbox One. Like, literally, folks, if you've been waiting to get an Xbox, you should probably go buy one. There's literally deals for like $250 with 7 games and a year of Xbox Live. Like, I think for that deal, if I didn't already own an Xbox One, I could tolerate seeing a more powerful one coming out or a skinnier one coming out a little on down the road. Like, but then you wonder, it's like, well, would you rather tell that person to take that $250 and put it towards a PC? Maybe. Because I'm like you. Like, I don't have an insane, like, dual Titan rig like you have, but, like, I have a good PC with a GTX 980 in it.
You got something that's going to outperform an Xbox One.
Oh, yeah, by leaps and bounds. Yeah. And so even for me now, it's like I said, I took my Xbox One out of my entertainment center. I thought it was broken. It's never gone back in. And I'll probably end up bringing it in here and just having it in here to do, like, Let's Plays. Or...
Like, I see a future where, like, my Xbox One is going to be that the way that I can always play Jet Force Gemini if I want to.
There you go.
Like, that's about as far as it goes.
I mean, look, I do like the fact that, like, now, because all these games are coming online and for backwards compatibility, that, like, I have this huge library of Xbox One games, because I go back and boot up my 360, and literally, the library on my 360, it takes probably 5 minutes to scroll through the whole library. Just all the free games you got, plus... us being in the industry, getting free games, like, my library is insane. So it's good to see some of those just automatically, like, migrating over to my Xbox One. I like all that. But there's no reason you can't do that on a PC.
Yep.
So, I don't know. It seems to me like Microsoft is, in a lot of ways, positioning itself to get out of the console business. But then this comes up with these, like, two new, like, the Slim I get. Like, I could, even if I thought Microsoft was trying to get out of the hardware business, I could see the Slim. Like, it's cheaper. They'll turn more of a profit per each unit sold. It makes perfect sense.
It's part of the cycle as is established.
It is.
Yeah.
The one next year, to me, that's why I'm still not convinced that it's true.
Like, what are you doing?
Why? Why would you do that? Like, with
But
everything
then again,
else that it's doing.
But then again, I've asked that about Microsoft for 4 years now. So it's all in a way, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It's also been interesting to see, the lack of loyalty for electronics, which I love. It's interesting that Microsoft did not manage to build a larger base of, for lack of a better term, fanboys for Xbox. I mean, look at all of them. They all just jumped ship right away and went to PlayStation. No loyalty.
Well,
obviously, at least Nintendo, it took Nintendo 5 failed consoles in a row to get to where it's at. Their fans actually stuck around and were punished time after time after time.
Well, because they couldn't get they couldn't get that Nintendo experience anywhere else.
Right.
If you want, because that's the thing. The main thing that Microsoft has loyalty to is Halo.
Yeah,
and
Halo's kind of yesterday's news.
Yeah, and also I see a lot of people that are big Halo fans, but they're not Microsoft fans.
I'll tell you this much: I have enjoyed Doom a hell of a lot more than I liked Halo 5.
I've enjoyed Doom more than any Halo I've played since ODST.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a safe bet as well. Definitely, way more.
I liked more than 4. I liked it more than Reach. I liked it more than 3.
No way, not 3.
Halo
3 is freaking amazing, man.
I was not a tremendous Halo.
Really?
I
love that game.
As soon as those games bog down in the flood shit, I'm out. I don't care
I
about
love
the
Halo
flood
3.
stuff.
I think it's the best in the series, But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, man. E3, will they even announce this box for next year at E3? Probably not.
That's a little far out for Microsoft.
Anybody.
Microsoft tends to stick to this year's releases. For the most part.
Only if
unless they run shit that then gets delayed for 3 fucking years. Where the hell is Scalebound?
Yeah, I mean, if it's an iterative box,
right?
You don't announce it till next E3. If it's if it's the Xbox 2. Then sure you mention it at this year's E3 because if it's going to come out next year. But if
the Xbox 1.0 or whatever they're going to,
I like the graphic.
What if
Xbox
it's what if
1, 2?
What if it's the Xbox 10 for Windows 10?
That could be.
What if Microsoft just doesn't care about numbers anymore?
Well, Windows skipped Windows 9.
It was Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox 10. It's great. It means nothing. Numbers mean nothing.
You're right.
It's like some kind of personal Fibonacci sequence or something.
It's gonna be called Xbox Square Root or something.
Xbox imaginary number.
Yeah.
The Xbox I.
So not long to wait. Only a few more weeks till E3. Finally got my media registration from E3 yesterday. Pretty stoked about that. Always when I get that confirmation from E3, that's when it becomes real. And I get that. It's so funny. I got that email popped into my inbox, and I felt this heat wave go over me. It's I don't know if it was panic or excitement or a mixture of both of them, but literally I saw it and I just got a hot flash. I was like, nah, E3's coming. Here it comes. I need to start moving towards E3, start setting up everything for the show. We're doing a bunch of promotion at the show or for marketing and stuff like that. Now that was the big alarm bell for me. Oh my god, I got to get the street team ready and all the flyers and leaflets and all that crap as well. So yeah, we'll have to wait a few more weeks to see what the real story is. I mean, they seem pretty confident in their sources. I mean, both Kotaku and Polygon it wasn't rumor. It was this is happening. Yeah. So. And I definitely trust Kotaku on stuff like this. And Polygon has a pretty good reputation with it. So it sure seems like it's happening, but we shall see. All right, let's move on to the next topic of the Big Six. All right, so we're not going to talk a ton about Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Because we don't really know a lot.
Well, we do know a lot after today. Did you watch today's trailer?
I did, but I also don't trust them. So
why do you not trust them?
Well, because it looks really cool. It's kind of they're hinting at a very open world kind of almost Metal Gear Solid 5 style Ghost Recon game here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's Ubisoft. I'll believe it when it's in my hand and I'm not collecting phones. It's. Who knows where the boundaries on these worlds really are? I mean, they tried to sell The Division as something similar to this, and that wasn't... I mean, I like The Division a lot, but it's not really the same thing they were selling in that regard.
I don't know. I mean, other than, the fake voiceover that they put over, the initial debut, and there's a little subterfuge there, but I do kind of feel like The Division ended up being what they really told us it was going to be. We didn't know it was, an MMORPG, but we knew it was, an online cooperative third-person shooter.
Sort of, but I well, even you were surprised that it had the MMO aspect to it.
I was, yeah.
And this, this trailer conjures up a lot of images in my head that I don't know are aligned with what the game is actually going to be.
Yeah,
so it looks really cool.
Watch Dogs is probably the more egregious example to bring up of saying one thing and then delivering another.
I don't think they're lying when they do these things. I think this is what their idea is, what they're trying to do, and what ends up being possible or being feasible in the time frame tends to be a little less than what they think.
Yeah.
And so, I understand that, but it has had the effect of me kind of tempering my enthusiasm for Ubisoft stuff until I really get it in my hands.
Here's one thing I would say in this game's defense, though, is it isn't doing anything like crazy innovative. Like with Watch Dogs, when they first showed it, I was like, oh my god, like, this game is unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Yeah, this does look entirely plausible.
Yes. I haven't seen anything in any of the trailers or the previews or anything for this game that makes me believe, like, they can't do that.
Right.
Like, I saw Watch Dogs for the first time, and I was like, I don't know about that.
To me, it's not about can't. It's about will.
Yeah.
Will they do it? Will they deliver on what they're showing here? Probably, but, I need to see a little more.
I honestly, with the way the industry is going and looking at sales of games and the type of games that are doing really well these days, I honestly think this game could end up being like one of the top 5 sellers of 2016. It is the wheelhouse for sales right now.
That's true.
Online, shooter,
look at those
MMO,
flamingos.
Drive anywhere you want, do whatever you want, open world, take missions as you want. If you don't want a mission, don't take it. Like, that is where games, at least sales for video games, are all accumulating right now. And I feel like this game could be like, obviously you have Call of Duty, it's going to sell really well. Who knows what exclusives we'll have for PlayStation 4 and Q4. That's still kind of up in the air.
Battlefield 1's probably going to sell pretty well.
Yeah, it'll sell well. But this, of Q4, to me, this game has a great chance of being probably the 3rd best-selling game. If they put it, they might pull another Ubisoft and put it out like the day before Christmas or whatever in December, which would obviously hurt it.
At the same time, Ubisoft also seems to be pretty good about leveraging these, major military shooter release. Nobody thought The Division was going to sell what it did, but it sure did.
They know how to market these games. They know who to market to,
yeah,
when to market it, and how much money to spend on it. They are really, really good at it. And look, this game looks awesome, man. Like, what we've seen of it so far.
Like, that's the great shot with like these big open vistas and areas where it looks like you can go wherever you want or wherever you need to. Like, there's some real potential here. I just, I'm not like jumping on the hype train quite yet, though.
It looks like Just Cause without the camp.
Yeah.
And I can, based upon Ubisoft track record with not putting out games unless they're really finished, there's a couple games. The Crew wasn't right where it needed to be whenever it was released. But generally, Ubisoft, when it puts a game out, it's ready for prime time. I could just see this game doing absolute gangbusters. And
God help you if they patch it later.
Yeah. And then the trailer that they put out today just solidified that. It looks gorgeous. We had not seen anything from this game since like E3 of last year. It has been on like blackout ever since.
And interesting that they release it now, because that says to me that they're going to blow this thing out at E3.
Oh, they would definitely will. Other than Watch Dogs 2, this will probably be like
this is your Assassin's Creed replacement,
right?
Basically.
Yeah. And, Watch Dogs 2 is actually the Assassin's Creed replacement.
Yeah, but I don't care about Watch Dogs 2.
But my guess is this is the second to last game shown at Ubisoft's presser, with Watch Dogs 2 being the last game shown at Ubisoft's presser. Those two games preceded directly by For Honor, I'm guessing, which I'm also
that's the one
excited.
I'm really excited about.
Like, look, that game might...
Also, can that guy who was like the director of that, can he present the whole conference?
The whole thing.
Because he's great.
He can be the new Mr. Caffeine. Like, he was... Pac just brought him up this week.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, I had completely forgotten about that guy.
No, I'll never forget that.
I had forgotten about him until he mentioned. Obviously, I remember him once. I think it was one of those things like the Wii Music presentation. At
I mean, the Wii Music or like the 2006 Sony press conference with all, Ridge Racer and all that shit. Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget that. Like 2006 Sony press conference, probably the standout for me is like the worst press. I mean, it wasn't even that bad. It was just like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like it's like it's all wrong. But like Mr. Caffeine was the most embarrassing, I think.
Well, he also mentioned
the Jamie Kennedy thing was also pretty bad.
And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll try to track down footage of the Jamie Kennedy thing and have that for B-roll for PAC. And I realized that the only people who were at that press conference with cameras was Game Trailers. That's it. The only footage that exists of that god-awful press conference we shot. And I remember the day Ryan Stevens called me, and he was like, hey, there's no cameras at the Activision press conference. And I was like, what? I'm like, no. I'm like, you go in there. And he's like, they just told me we're not allowed to take cameras in. I'm like, you take those cameras in. And like, we used to be like guerrilla back then. Like, we literally called our camera crews the guerrilla crews. And I was like, you go in there and you put that camera up somehow, some way, and you shoot that press conference. And he did. He told me he went in there and like, they told him to take down the camera, and then he just argued with them, and they're like, well, just set it up in the back. And so he did. He set it up in the back, and we had the only footage of that press conference, and it is, watch it. It is.
Is it still up?
It's on YouTube, yeah.
All right.
In like 240p.
Wow.
Like, I don't know.
Save that one, IGN.
Yeah, like, I don't know if like they can find that on GT's old servers or not, because we shot it in like 720. But all you can find online is 240. And so,
terrible capture of it, basically.
And so I was like, I didn't use it in the show because PAC is 1080. So, yeah, it was interesting to see that we were like the only ones who ever got that footage of that. We preserved it for prosperity.
There's always that one little. There's always those weird little conferences that like the mainstream doesn't get to, like that Koei one.
Yeah.
With 1 million troops. I didn't go to that, but we had a couple people that
there.
did go, and I remember going to some party the same night.
That was Konami.
Was that Konami?
Yeah.
And they come back and like they're like, and people like came in like with these like looks on their faces, and I'm like, where were you? And they're like, we're at this press conference. It's the craziest thing it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It was so weird. I was there and I was just like, what is going on right now? Like, it was really hot in there too.
Yeah.
And so I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, is it like the heat? Is it just me who thinks this is completely like batshit insane? And as soon as I walked out, like my BlackBerry, because that was when BlackBerries were like the thing, literally had like 50. It was because it was live streamed, and like 50 emails for. Oh my God, what is going on down there? Did somebody like fill the room with like poison gas or something? Like, yeah, E3 memories, man, they're great.
Yep.
But.
You'll hear plenty of them in about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. So, I don't know, man. I think the trailer that I saw today, and again, go watch it. It's on Sifted right now. Should be near the top of your Sift. We rated it pretty high. I think this game has the potential to be another huge seller for Ubisoft. I think it could be like the Doom of later in the year, a game that kind of sneaks up on everybody, catches them off guard, and people end up buying it. Again, with Ubi's pedigree, particularly with games like this, and their ability to market it, I think it's got a really good, and it looks great. It looks like an awesome game. Like, I'm really excited to play it.
Yeah, I need to see a little more detail in the gameplay. I mean, I like the trailer. It looked good.
I mean, I hope it doesn't turn into another Metal Gear Solid 5. I enjoyed that game, but it ultimately had a lot of faults, so we'll see. But I just thought it was worth discussing to get it on everyone's radar on Sifted if you haven't been paying attention to it, because, like I said, it has been MIA now for an entire year, so hopefully we'll get more media. We should definitely get more in a couple weeks here with E3. Hopefully we'll get a nice long gameplay demo, an on-stage walkthrough or whatever on their E3 stage. So let's move on to the next topic. Matt, have you been playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
I am not.
I am surprised to hear that.
Really?
Yeah, because aren't you a big Turtles guy?
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah?
I'm not a huge modern Turtles guy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not. That's not the Turtles I grew up with. Look, I am
right.
Look, I am super old school because it was basically accidentally ended up with the first couple of original Ninja Turtles comics when they came out. Because I like comics, and my cousin would buy them for me, and sometimes he'd pick up stuff he thought I liked, and I guess the Ninja Turtles were a thing, and they are those first the Mirage issues, hyper violent, Frank Miller style, Shredder dies in the first
what
issue.
Happened to that?
It's
that was what I thought the Turtles were, and they've turned into this homogenized kids property.
Well, the '80s cartoon happened. They syndicated, kidified it for '80s cartoon stuff and turned them all into these, cartoons.
Pizza eating.
Yeah, all that stuff comes from the cartoon, and then the movie was a big hit in 1990, and that's basically solidified.
That was 1990.
Yeah, solidified 26 years ago,
crazy,
over
man.
a quarter century.
Wow.
30 plus years of Turtles, man.
Yeah.
And so to me, the Ninja Turtles are those original comics with the hyper-violent stuff, going to the other dimension, fighting the Triceraton aliens. Yeah. Fugitoid, all that stuff is like, that's what the Turtles are to me. And so everything else is sort of like, oh yeah, that's cool. I mean, the original movie, the 1990 movie, takes a lot of its plot from the original comics.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff in the Nickelodeon show that's running right now that like they take a lot of references, a lot of stuff from those originals. They did a fantastic adaptation of the old comic where Leonardo fights his way through an entire Foot Clan assault in the middle of Christmas and stuff. So, like, there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of history to it.
Got a question from the chat.
But I don't care about your new Platinum game because it looks like every other, like, B-list Platinum game they make, and I just haven't jumped on it.
Got a question here in the chat for you. It says, was that a Dark Horse comic?
No, it was Mirage.
Mirage. Okay.
That was Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's original Ninja Turtle comics were by their own studio called Mirage Studios.
That question was from Snub B.
Snub B.
So you just don't care about the new or latest incarnation of...
I like the Nickelodeon series, but I didn't feel the need to play the video game, really. Especially because, like, it kind of looks more like a Legend of Korra kind of thing. Like Platinum is sort of like licensed
I was gonna bring that up,
B-list sort of team. And like I know people praised Transformers Devastation, but I thought that was pretty mediocre, except for the presentation.
Yeah.
Like it was like there were like 3 environments
in
the whole game.
That game was completely overscored.
Yeah, absolutely. And like people still praise it to all hell, and I'm just like as someone who owns over 1,000 Transformers himself.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
See,
like it was pleasant, but like there was nothing there.
It was Gen 1, Matt. People had waited for Gen 1 anything Gen 1 that wasn't terrible for a really long time. And it's not terrible. Like it's a fun game to play while it lasts, but
it's just sort of fine.
Vapid, I guess, in my opinion, is a good
And I know you're not allowed to say that about Platinum because, oh my god, the combat's so deep, but I was like, I've been playing beat 'em ups my whole life, and there's not really a whole lot there. I mean, there's some cool stuff you can pull off. But but it really seems to expect me to play the game over and over and over and over, and I'm just like, I just don't do that.
Yeah, particularly when you have a story that's as dumb as that one. And so, I have been playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm not doing the game eval for it. We have somebody else working on it. Probably that might even be in my inbox now. But I've played, I guess, about 6 hours of this game, and it is awful, terrible. Here's the thing. I didn't even realize that there was I knew there was a movie coming out, but I didn't realize it was coming out at the same time as the game. I had no idea. Like, I seriously thought that this game project for Platinum was completely separate from the movie, autonomous, release when it's ready, release when it's done.
Oh, no. They're clearly synergized with the movie coming out next week.
I did not think it was a marketing tool for the movie, and that is exactly what it is. It is I have not seen a game like this in a long time, Matt.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is probably the last one I remember.
And that was 4 years ago?
2012?
4 years ago.
2013? I don't remember when that movie
came out. These games used to come out...
Maybe it was 2014.
Like 5 per year.
Oh, yeah.
And look, publishers have figured out, this is the... And look...
Or Transformers 5. Transformers 4 had one. Rise of the Dark Spark was released forcibly to coincide with that one because it had the War for Cybertron levels, but it also had the Age of Extinction levels.
Yep.
So they still exist, but usually they're Activision.
That was also Activision.
They're usually Activision fulfilling a contract. So,
and this is a total one of those shovelware, god-awful games made just for the movie. I was excited for this. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. Like we talked about Transformers already. Transformers was fun to play while it lasted.
Yeah.
And if they had just made this as good as Transformers, I'd have been fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nowhere near as good as Transformers. I've only played the game 6 hours, and I've already had to repeat sections of the game already. I haven't got far enough to know, but I read one review that said that all the bosses in the game, you get to the end of the game, you have to fight them all again.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. I mean, that is also kind of a B-tier platinum tradition as well. I mean, there's a gulf between Bayonetta and, like, the stuff they do for money.
Yeah.
You know, it's very clear to me, for the most part.
Is this knocking some of the luster off of Platinum?
I don't have a lot of luster on Platinum to begin with. I like their stuff, but I don't think they're, like, these gods that a lot of people seem to think they are. I just think they make fun games for the most part, and every once in a while they make a licensed thing I know to stay away from.
But I think it goes beyond fun games. Like, one thing I love about Platinum is that they make great-looking games with great presentation and production values and plenty of over-the-top moments and set-piece moments. But to me, what I love about Platinum is their number one concentration usually is gameplay. Mm-hmm. Like, their games typically have, like I said earlier, like, they're like onions. Like, they have layers of depth to them. And you don't necessarily have to learn how to peel that onion completely all the way down to its core to enjoy the game. Like, you can play the first level of it and still have a good time. And then if you really enjoy it, go back, jack up the difficulty, and then peel that second layer and get to that other layer of gameplay that they have. But I don't know, man. It seems to me like they're spreading themselves way too thin, and to me, it has knocked the shine off of Platinum for me. Like, I'm now to the point with Platinum where I'm like, okay, you need to start telling us, like, which team inside Platinum is making the game, because they don't do that. Like, it's
although
just,
it can be kind of obvious at times. I mean, this seemed obvious to me just watching videos that it was.
I mean,
it has a lot in common with Legend of Korra.
It looks to me like it was made by the same team that made Transformers. We know that's not the case because there's no way they could have built another game in that amount of time. But just looking at trailers and all the marketing for it so far, it looked like it was just a reskinned Transformers game. And if that
it looks
were
to
the
me
case,
like a reskinned Legend of Korra.
Okay. I've never played Legend of Korra, so
It's very similar to this. I mean, just in terms of the size of the levels, the way the combat seems to work. I haven't played this game, but, like, it's like the fingerprints are there. You know, I can see why you would say that about Transformers, but Transformers is a much and this is weird to say about Transformers Devastation, but it is a larger scoped game, whereas this feels like, and Legend of Korra feel like something that would have been on Xbox Live Arcade, you know, whereas Transformers Devastation did feel like a retail game more, I would say. But to me, it was pretty obvious that this was not their A team.
I feel like they need to start, like, designating who's building the games.
It would be nice to know, like, which Platinum is at work.
Because there are different shades of Platinum.
These are not the people. This is not the people that made Revengeance.
No,
you know, like
definitely not.
Or at least it's not the people who had the same amount of time to make Revengeance.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this is like, clearly they were under a deadline. This game, even though it's not based on the movie, it had to come out alongside the movie.
Right.
That was clearly the intention. So you had a hard date, you had a hard delivery, whether it was good or not. You know, maybe if they had another 6 months to polish, it would be really good.
Yeah.
But we'll never know. So.
Yep. Well, I don't want to spend a ton of time on bad games. That is kind of one of my mantras with GameFace. It's like, once you establish how bad a game is, let's move on.
Consider yourself warned and...
Yeah, don't buy it. I don't care how big of a Ninja Turtle fan you are.
Or Platinum fan.
Or, well, definitely not Platinum fans. Like, you're... This is like a shade of Platinum at best. So
it's silver.
Yeah.
Really.
Maybe even nickel. Yeah. Do not buy this game. Like, maybe if you're a hardcore, like, Ninja Turtles fan, you could find it, like, on eBay for $10, which you might be able to right now. Maybe then I would say buy it, but otherwise stay completely away from it. It's a total piece of junk, shovelware, it's a marketing cash-in. Mm-hmm. Stay away. And I haven't said marketing cash-in in a long time.
Just watch the Nickelodeon show instead. It's way better.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk about a topic I don't know if a lot of people are going to care that much about, but I think the reason I want to talk about it is because, personally, I don't care about eSports a lot, and I feel like I'm missing something about it. Mm-hmm. And so eSports has been going through some growing pains lately. It all started as just like this fun, like, community thing before all the rich people got their hands in it and all these big publishers started getting into it and Turner Broadcasting signed a huge contract to broadcast it on TV, and Shaquille O'Neal became the spokesperson, and on and on and on and on. And athletes started buying esports teams. Way before that, it just started as like a community thing. Like it was a communal, it was like a village of people that all loved this one thing. And it was a huge village, but it was a village. It was like, I feel like esports, as it's getting exposed to mainstream media and a mass audience, the cracks in the facade are starting to show, so to speak. I think the beginning of that was like when they started making it legal to gamble on esports, and you started seeing all these esports, quote-unquote, athletes point shaving and throwing matches. That was like the first red flag. The second red flag, they start this governing body for esports like a couple weeks ago or whatever. And all the esports teams are starting to bail on the governing body because the governing body was asked some tough questions and they had no real answers for it. And so then after that, it was, okay, this porn website is sponsoring esports teams and the esports leagues don't like that. This part of it, to me, shows maybe it is growing up a little bit. So, Matt, as somebody who's not a particular fan of esports, unless you're talking about EVO or a fighting game tournament, what is it about
That's a whole
it?
other argument.
Yeah, it is. What is it about it that keeps it from resonating with you?
I don't generally care about the games they play. I don't play the games they play, so I don't understand what I'm looking at. Like I watch a League of Legends tournament and everyone like freaks out about something. I have no idea what I just saw.
And on that note,
which is like different to me from...
It's the job of like the broadcasters, or as they are called in esports, shoutcasters, they're broadcasters, to explain that to you. That's their job.
Yeah, well, they're not very good at that.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I really don't. And I'm very good at... I've watched a lot of video game footage in my life. And I don't understand why everybody cheered for that. I mean, I was the same way in StarCraft. I don't understand how StarCraft competitive play works either. And I would watch things, and I'm just like, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, I can't! Oh, look at that! What a move! I'm like, what did he do?
What happened?
Like, what happened?
What did he do?
I mean, at least with a fighting game, I mean, yeah, I'm more experienced with fighting games personally, so I understand what I'm looking at anyway. But like, I have friends who don't play fighting games that watch EVO with me. Everybody comes and watches EVO because it's 2 fighters and 2 life bars and a timer and a 1 screen, and you know what's happening, and everyone understands what a fight is.
Everyone can get it.
And the other thing, of course, is like in esports. That's one as a video producer, a TV producer. I still don't feel like anyone's fully figured out how to present it on television because everybody has a different perspective. Like you can't just show the field, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can't just like a real sport. Sorry. Real sport's offensive, right?
Yeah, that is offensive. I guess that's offensive, yeah.
What's like, what do we call, like
activity?
Athletic sports? I don't know what to call it. I don't know, like football, football or soccer, whichever football you prefer. Like you can just point a camera at the field and the guys play, and that's you can see the game.
Yeah.
Whereas like in a League of Legends games, there's 10 POVs.
Well, there's 2 play fields, right?
Right.
There's reality, which is the people who are participating in the competition.
Right.
Then there's the virtual play field where the actual action is taking place.
And there were problems like I had same problem with something like Halo, or like which perspective do you use? How do you do live? I mean, you could probably do a pretty good after the fact kind of highlight reel or something, but how do you do that live when you don't know where the most important event of the moment is going to happen? I don't know how you do it. I don't think esports has had its what you would call the poker lipstick cam moment.
Yeah, you're right.
We're back when someone figured out that's how you present card games on television, is you have the lipstick cam so the players can show the audience what they have, but like they don't show anyone else what they have. And like I don't think that's or like I don't remember what site did it, but there was some site that it figured out like, oh, the perfect way to present like recipe stuff online is to do that top-down camera where you see the people preparing the food like from that top. Like that's the same kind of there hasn't been the breakthrough presentational like epiphany for esports that will make that accessible to people that don't know the game like the back of their hand.
Do you think it's the camera angle, or do you think, though, it's
I'm using the camera angle.
presenters?
It's part.
I know you're using
it's
it as an
I'm using it
example,
as just sort of an example. Like, I don't know if the epiphany in question for esports or League of Legends is specifically a camera angle trick, but there's something that's not clicking about that doesn't allow people unfamiliar with the game, with playing the game, to get in on it. Because, like, I know the rules of League of Legends. I know how MOBAs work. I know some of the characters and how they function. I know basic strategies. I know how you win. I know how you lose. But, like, I can't watch one of these games and understand the intricacies of the high-level play. It just doesn't make any visual sense to me. And the commentators generally don't help much.
They don't, in my opinion, they don't help at all.
No.
And look, I am a League of Legends player, and I hardly ever watch any of their competitions because I don't understand what the hell's going on. And in all honesty, like, I feel like they go out of their way to try to make it elite. And they use jargon that even me as a League of Legends player, I don't understand a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you just took out Baron. Like, that's all there is to it. Like, you went into the jungle and you took out Baron. Everybody knows what that is. But then they come up with this crazy phraseology. It's like, I almost feel like they don't want all those other people in. Like, I feel like it's like exclusionary, and, like, by design. Like, I don't feel like they want.
Mm-hmm. Or if not by design, they don't care.
Yeah, and I mean, look, there's a point that can be made that they don't need television.
Yeah.
And they don't need casual people to like it. It's plenty successful all on its own, but...
Yeah, I definitely get the argument that, like, why make them dumb it down if it's already working?
Because when you start talking about all the people that are coming into it, and look, like I said earlier, I don't think it's good that a lot of these people who aren't a part of the industry are coming into esports. But when these people who aren't a part of gaming in general come in and start putting in boatloads of money, the expectations change for them. And so they're the people supporting this. You know, Turner Broadcast, I think the deal's $500 million or whatever. Like, ESPN just tried to give Riot $500 million to run League of Legends on ESPN. Like, when you start talking about that kind of money, the expectation changes. And ESPN is going to say, look, man, like, I don't know if you've seen or not, but ESPN has started running esports content on ESPN.com. Like, on the front page of ESPN.com every once in a while.
Against the protests of that one dude?
It is.
I don't remember, like, whoever that broadcaster was, but he was just like, if that becomes a
Colin
thing,
Cowherd.
If that becomes a thing, I quit.
He quit and left.
Did?
Yeah, he now works for Fox.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, money where the mouth is. Well done.
And so every once in a while, like, there will be they have, like, their own page for esports on ESPN, but every once in a while a story will actually make it to the homepage, and I'm assuming they're just trusting the people who are writing these that this is a big deal. The way those articles are written, it is like they're written in another language. And the best part is reading the comments. Like the guy who showed up to check the score of the Penguins Lightning game, or showed up to check the score of, like, the Warriors and Thunder game. Like, they stumble across these stories, and the comments are just comedy gold. Like, even if you never visit ESPN.com, I highly recommend going and try and look at their esports page and just try to find the articles that actually have a couple comments, because they're hilarious. Watching, and even me, like, I love regular sports, and I love esports, and I love games. These articles to me are just like, foosh, like, full of, like, acronyms and, like, even just words. I don't even know what they are. And so ESPN, which is obviously the worldwide leader in sports, they've taken the tact of kind of like what you just said. Like, we're not going to dumb it down for these people. Like, we're going to give them, like, what's real. And I can appreciate that and understand that aesthetic as far as content is concerned. But if you're hoping to make that page a success and make esports a success on ESPN and go beyond the pathetic ratings, in all honesty, that ESPN got for the Heroes of the Storm college tournaments that they've run, because they have got awful ratings, if you want to go past that, like, you need to start thinking about other, and it's not even just other people. It's just, like, anyone who doesn't watch esports every day. Like,
and it can even be, like you say, like, just because you play it and you're into it and you're pretty good at it doesn't mean you can it doesn't mean that stuff's not impenetrable to you too. Like, I mean, I thought it was very interesting that I've been playing fighting games for 25 years now.
Yeah.
And this guy, one of the pro players, was a friend of mine, Gutex, started writing these really rudimentary, like, how to play fighting games, like books, and he puts them on Amazon. You can buy them for like $1 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I bought some because to support him basically, and I read them. And like they were very rudimentary, but they go into very detailed like fundamentals about why you do certain things in fighting games and why the technical aspects of a fighting game work this way, and that's why you want to do things like this and like this. And there were some things in there that I do automatically after just years and years of learning how to play those games just on instinct that I never knew why I did them. And reading how he explained, I'm like, yeah, that's why you do it. Total. And I could never have told you why you do that before I read what he wrote about here's why you want to do this. It was just something I learned to do, and I never really analyzed it. Yeah. It was like trying to explain to someone how to throw a fireball.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't. Like, what? You just do a fireball.
Yeah.
And down to the, well, no, but what's the timing? I'm like, it's that.
Yeah, you just do
it.
it.
You just do it. And like reading that was fascinating because I'm like, I could never have explained that to someone who didn't know how to play. But he did. I mean, Gutex did it. He was very good at that. But to me, I was like, I'm really glad I read that because now maybe I can explain that. And so I wonder if there's a little bit of that impenetrability where like you play this game so hard, you play this game so high level, you play this game so well. Sometimes it's hard to communicate to someone that has no idea what the hell you're talking about, like exactly what you're doing and why.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that needs to be part of a regular broadcast, but like I think you definitely
it's like with hockey games.
You definitely need to educate someone. I'm not saying you we need the glowing blue puck of eSports, because that was terrible.
It was, yeah.
But
with hockey, what you've seen is they've come to the middle, and so for the first period of a game, like you'll hear the announcer explain offsides. Like they'll be like, the puck has to be the first thing into the offensive zone, and they'll mention it very clearly and plainly, so someone who's not a huge hockey fan can get it. Or icing, they'll explain icing. This is so you can't just stand next to the goal and knock the puck in all game. Like, they do a good job of explaining, like, the more confusing parts of it. And, they don't use a lot of, like, look, there's a whole language for hockey and football and basketball that the people who actually play it use. There's all these little catchphrases and things that, it's like speaking another language.
But also a lot of that language
but they don't
goes
use
back
it.
decades and decades and decades.
Right, but the broadcasters don't use it. They use layman terms that people who actually watch things on television can understand, and I think that's the place where these shoutcasters have to get to. They need to pull it back and not worry so much about if the people watching it think that they're elite and they know what they're talking about. They need to be more palatable to their audience. It's like I always said, the first thing you do when you create content is the first thing you think is, what is your audience? That's it. That you cater to your audience, and your audience on television is different from the audience that you get from people who are watching a stream on Twitch.
And also, I think it's also important to kind of look at sort of the setup of a broadcast booth of a major athletic event. Like, you usually have someone who played the game professionally and is there as like either a color commentator or some kind of an analyst. But like the lead broadcaster is usually someone who is a trained broadcaster who knows about the sport.
Right.
But also is an outsider enough that they know how to translate that into what a layman would need to know. And I think a lot of the shoutcasters come from inside the hobby.
They do, definitely.
And like the idea of letting someone who is more of a presenter than I don't think that's an alien idea in a lot of these. And some of that might be my fault because I was there when Sessler tried to MC the Evo finals that year. And that didn't work out so well.
No, I could have told you that wasn't going to work out too
well. That's a long story.
Yeah.
But so like I can see why that's a good example of like, oh, we need someone to come in and sort of help like make this a more broadcast sort of centric. It's like, well, all you need to do is play that clip and people are like, that's why we don't want to do that. And I'm just like, point taken. But like, it's not all going to be like that. There's a way to come at it.
It's a different medium though. Television, Twitch. They're like night and day.
Right.
They're two different mediums. They're two different audiences as well. And I also feel like that maybe some of the announcers, broadcasters, shoutcasters, whatever you want to call them, they are immediately held to the fire by chat.
Yeah.
Like they have that feedback that's just streaming right next to their face. And I feel like that if they try to go too casual, Twitch chat. I mean, our Twitch chat's awesome, but most Twitch chat's not.
I've seen some arguments that, like, basically you should be able to choose whether there's chat on your stream or not, and that esports might benefit from not having chat.
It might.
On some, like, major events and
stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that'd be better without chat.
Well, yeah. But, like, I can see why you'd... I mean, like, there was some kind of comparison where it was, like, on some recent major stream, like, something like 1/3 of the chat lines were all devoted to a particular racist meme.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, what does that gain you?
Yeah.
Having that there.
Yeah. So let's talk about porn sponsoring esports. Let's shift gears here quickly. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like that they should squeeze out the porn industry? They're okay with liquor companies, tobacco companies sponsoring?
I don't care. Like, I think... I mean, everybody looks at porn.
I mean, that's like, God bless America, isn't it? You know, like, violence, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah. We don't want any porn in this game about killing people over and over again. You know, and I mean, who cares? I mean, I know who cares. There's tons of we're a Puritan country. It comes from, I'm like, I don't find porn any more or less offensive than like alcohol and all that stuff. It's like I think it should be fine. But it's never going to happen because
here's the rub.
You've got standards and practices and you know.
The rub is that most of the people who watch esports are kids, like young, like tweens, early teens, and so look,
they know what porn is.
They do, but look, you sponsor something to try to increase the momentum of your business. And so if they're marketing towards these tweens, who probably are looking at porn anyway.
Yeah.
But that's...
I mean, I know you can't talk about it, but
there's a reason they don't make candy cigarettes anymore. Or maybe they do, but...
Yeah, but cigarettes kill you.
Right.
Sex doesn't kill... Well, not if you're doing it right.
Yeah. Well, in the 80s it would kill you.
Not if you're doing it right.
Now you just have to take like 80 pills a day to not die from it. But it's... I don't think there's any easy... I can see points on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of an argument to be made. It's like, hey, maybe we could finally break this weird stigma we have about, you know, sexuality versus violence by kind of combining the two things into a major spectator sport. Why not? But at the same time, it's like breaking into the mainstream is going to be hard enough without trying to sell them on the like our sport uses porn as sponsors. Fuck you. You know, like. Just
how's Turner going to deal with that? And that's probably a big part of it.
But it's also like if there's that much money in esports, like you'll find other sponsors.
I honestly think what you just said...
And porn isn't going away. You know?
It's not. And you don't need to advertise porn either.
Right.
But I think you just made the most salient point, though, which is that with these esports leagues like ESL and MLG starting to get picked up by places like ESPN and Turner Broadcasting, they know already that... And by the way, Capcom with Street Fighter is who banned the porn teams. Mm-hmm. Like, they're actually the ones who struck out first and said no. But they know that they cannot trot their quote-unquote players out onto stage with porn written across their shirt. Like, you just can't do it, man. Like, and so this
Sorry, RedTube.
And while I understand...
And why did the YouTube call it YouTube Red? That seems really intentional.
That is weird. I never thought about that. But... Look, it's going to mature, and the Pac-12, another case of it maturing, is going to start running esports, the Pac-12 network, which is usually all just college football and college basketball, is now going to start running esports.
College law.
I mean, it needs to grow up in a hurry, because I feel like it is becoming accepted into mainstream society far more quickly than it should be for the state that it's in right now.
It's weird how like it kind of it's this mad rush to kind of capitalize in a mainstream sense on all these suddenly lucrative nerd-related things.
Yeah.
And you see it in movies, you see it in TV. Boy, do you see it in TV. You see it in everything right now. And sometimes those things work, sometimes those ventures work, and sometimes they don't. And I don't know if this one's going to work out the gate.
It is surprising the acceptance of nerd culture despite the relative unacceptance of nerds.
Yeah.
Like, we're still, like, a huge minority. Like,
your shit's really cool, but, like, can you just give it to us and go away?
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's a little bit of that.
What it is. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But, we don't want to talk about esports too much, but, man, there's just so much changing with it right now. I mean, it's really at this crux point. I don't think we've done a topic on esports on GameFace in probably 7 or 8 months. But it is the biggest story in video games right now. It's bigger than Call of Duty.
Money-wise, yeah.
I mean, everything. Like, mainstream coverage. It's bigger than anything right now. And I just feel like we're kind of at this point where we kind of needed to talk about it while it's going through all these growing pains.
I wish I could tolerate watching it, so I would have better things to say.
Well, I have a feeling if they did what we talked about and
learn.
had some announcers that actually educated the viewership a little bit and didn't assume everybody is a frickin' 80-hour-a-week League of Legends player.
Maybe they should call you.
No, I am not an announcer. Not an announcer. I wouldn't want to do it anyway. No.
I would enjoy commentating fighting games. I think I would need to do a lot more research.
I'm not good enough. I watched it. I could actually do a good job of explaining League of Legends to somebody. Commentating on the fly,
it's hard.
I could do it. Fighting games, no way.
I could do fighting games with some practice, some experience, and some research. My idols are Ultra David. And James Chen for that. I think they're the best commentators in the business.
The guys who do Evo.
Yeah, and Seth Killian, of course. Seth is...
He's their color guy.
And you know who else is one of the best commentators around? And you never get to really hear him much? Justin Wong.
Really?
Justin Wong is a great commentator.
He speaks?
Yeah. He's actually got a good voice. He knows everything about the game, so everything he says is super interesting and insightful, but he's always in the top 8, so he never gets to do it.
Eventually, that is probably going to be his career.
But that's the question, is are you ever going to be at a point where those guys get paid for what they do?
They don't get paid?
I think, in the fighting game community, I think it's mostly volunteer.
Evo, I'm assuming they get paid.
I don't know about that. Evo's nonprofit.
They should be getting paid.
I agree, but I don't know if they are.
Yeah.
It's a very community. That's the thing, is that you're saying the same thing about bringing these sponsors and these corporate people and and these are very community driven. These are very grassroots movements, really, when you get down to it. Even the Riot stuff. I mean, Riot is a big, huge corporation, but they aren't. They didn't come from that, and they haven't forgotten where they came from. And I think they're very much community driven more than anything else. And there's a great fear of losing that. And considering what we just talked about with not appropriation, but sort of the capitalization of nerd culture, I understand that fear. I understand that desire to not lose that aspect of things. So
a lot of times the magic's gone once it goes commercial. So
I mean, I'm sure somewhere there were old men complaining about how once the MLB got televised, the American League just wasn't any fun anymore. But time marches on and money changes everything.
It sure does, and that's what's coming into esports.
I'm just hoping. I don't really have a stake in the esports thing, but I'm really hoping that esports manages to find a way to make that 90-degree turn without losing what makes them what they are.
And I hope it picks me up. I want to like esports. I love video games. I love competition.
Yeah.
I should be the perfect fit.
I mean, I guess I feel the same way. I really would like to be able to kind of watch them and understand them and enjoy them, but you
don't want it to be work.
I don't want it to be work, but also the old school kind of purist and lifelong dork in me doesn't want them to compromise the part of that they love just to be successful in that realm, I don't want them to lose the thing that makes that special to them in the name of, there's money to be made, so we have to do it. I just hope they find a way to kind of hit that happy medium and not lose what makes them them.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. On that point, we will move on to the last topic of the Big Six for today. Matt, I was surprised to hear that you are not playing Fallout 4 Far Harbor.
No.
Why is that?
Well, Fallout 4 kind of lost me after about 30 hours, and I also forgot...
After 30 hours.
Well, it's not a huge way into Fallout 4 when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't finish the main story. I barely did a whole lot of stuff at Diamond City. I mean, I really didn't see much of the game, even though I played it for a long time. And I just sort of drifted away from it. And I did boot it up this week when Far Harbor came out, because I'm like, what, Far Harbor came out? What the hell? I completely missed that Far Harbor came out. And I booted it up, but I don't think I'm high enough level yet to go do that stuff. Or if I am, I just was like, I don't feel like I've done it where I need to clear out some side stuff before I get into this whole other area thing. And I just I don't know if I have the time or patience. Maybe with No Man's Sky getting delayed, that'll be what I do in for the rest of the summers. I'll finish Fallout 4. But I haven't. But then Witcher 3 is coming up with Blood and Wine, and I don't know if I'm gonna have. undertaking too. So
yeah, I mean, I think they're saying Blood and Wine's around 10 hours or something like that.
I was seeing more like 20 if you do
Really?
if you do everything.
Right.
It's a big area.
That, though. I never do that.
I
never
do.
do. You do, but I never do everything in any of these types of games. Well,
I'm still playing Witcher 3 periodically. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm right before the big finale. So what I'm doing is I'm going around the entire world and uncovering every question mark because that's what I do. Well, and even though everything at every question mark is completely freaking useless to me because I'm so overpowered.
Yeah.
But
that's the problem with DLC for all these games. So I am playing Far Harbor, or I played Far Harbor. I thought
all of it, like you finished it?
Yes.
Already?
Yes.
What?
Because it took like 4.5 hours.
What?
Yeah. The single player.
I haven't read any review. I really I'm completely Far Harbor ignorant.
Yeah. Well, here, let me
missed this one.
Let me just set it up first of all. So Far Harbor, basically, how it starts is you go to the Valentine Detective Agency, and you basically are put on the case of this missing girl. You go and you talk to the family. Apparently the girl's been hanging around with synths, and some people think that the girl is a synth. That's hard for me to say for whatever reason. And you talk to the parents, and the parents are like, no. The mom's like, I gave birth to her. She's a human. So there's like this whole ambiguous, is she a human? Is she a synth? Why would her parents lie? And basically, you set off for Far Harbor to try to find her. You get a clue that tells you that's where she is, and you go to Far Harbor to try to find her. Once you get to Far Harbor, basically there are like 3 factions in Far Harbor, just kind of like the base game, but there's only 3 of them, whereas in the base game there's more. There's like a group of people that are just murderous and like hate everybody. There's a group that like needs help. They're like destitute and living on the docks. And so those are like kind of the factions that you intermingle with. And then, you basically are on the hunt for this girl in Far Harbor. And the environment is great. It is a great change of pace from the base game. It's dreary and foggy, as you might guess. But there's a lot more color to it. It's a lot more vivid. I really liked the environment in the game, but I seriously played through the whole thing. And look, like I said, I'm not the guy who does all the side missions. I did a couple, but I plowed through the main quest in like 4.5 or 5 hours. And I don't know if you remember or not, but the first 2 pieces of DLC for this game were severely lacking. Like, they weren't even DLC. They were like, here's like some more tools for you to like... And that's another thing. Like, a big part of this, despite the fact that the last 2 expansions for Fallout 4 were all centered around the homestead stuff, there's homestead stuff you have to do in this, too. Like, you get a couple of new things that you can add to, like, build with or whatever, but there's a couple quests that are, like, required that you use it. And, like, I didn't really like that in the base game. I definitely didn't like it enough to play the other 2 expansions before this one, and now they put it into this one as well.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't one of my. I know there's people that build whole towns like on that, but
some of the videos I've seen are just mind-boggling.
I didn't care and it didn't engage me, and like I hate the interface for the building stuff.
Yeah.
Like I just think it's too clunky. I didn't like it.
Then you'll really hate Snap Map and Doom.
I didn't like it in. What was the one expansion on Skyrim where you built houses?
No, yeah, I don't remember the name of it.
Hearthstone or not Hearth something?
Something
Hearthfire
Stone or
something like
I
that.
don't know.
Whatever. I didn't like it. I didn't understand what the point was. Like, and at least the homestead in Fallout 4 serves a few more purpose than that. But like, it's just I didn't feel any compulsion to build anything beyond what it forced me to build to complete quests in Fallout 4. And the fact that that's such a focus for the DLC has really not been something that enticed me back.
Yeah, I mean, the story, I gave you the story. There aren't really any big revelations or twists that, like, blow your mind. Like, it's all pretty straightforward. The characters that you meet are, like, whatever. I'm just really disappointed. Not even just in Far Harbor. I am really disappointed in the DLC for Fallout 4 in general. Like, and the reason why is because Fallout 3... Like, I think it was the last DLC drop was amazing. Pretty much all the DLC for New Vegas was incredible.
Yeah.
And so the pedigree here is impeccable.
Well, New Vegas is Obsidian.
Right.
So.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, what you expect from this franchise out of its DLC, like, my standards were pretty high, and I felt like I was tolerant of those first 2 like little blips on the radar they put out for this game, and I was like, it's all good. Far Harbor's coming, and then I play it, and it was over, and like literally I played it in a night.
And is this it?
I think that is the last DLC, to the best of my knowledge. If you paid for the season pass for this game, I'm sorry. It was not worth the money that you paid. Remember how they didn't they jack it up at the last minute?
Yeah, it went up when they announced Far Harbor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Far Harbor alone costs as much as the season pass originally cost, I think.
Now, one thing I would say is it does seem to be like there is a ton of side quest content in Far Harbor. I have just scratched the surface of it, though, and it seemed to be like a really deep rabbit hole, and the couple missions that I did complete were probably some of the best ones that I played in Far Harbor. So there is a possibility, I haven't experienced enough to know, but there is a possibility that maybe it is saved by the side mission stuff, but the main quest in this is completely forgettable. It's way too much like the base game. I'm completely overpowered. I didn't even play Fallout 4 until I was level whatever. I finished the campaign and played it a little bit more after that, basically just for game eval purposes. But I'm just waltzing through the game, through Far Harbor. There was a couple places where it got a little challenging, but it doesn't appear that the enemies scale well enough to make a challenge. So I'm really disappointed in this, man. I was really excited. I really liked Fallout 4, the base game. I really enjoyed it. I know you have your issues with it, and I obviously didn't think it was a perfect game, and I thought it had a couple problems here and there, but I really enjoyed the time I spent with it. But you know what? I started playing this, and about 2 hours into it, I honestly didn't even want to play it anymore. I was like...
Welcome to my world, Grandma.
I felt like I had been there, done that. There just was nothing exciting about it other than the setting. And once I got to Far Harbor and saw it and met, the factions and met a couple people, I realized that's all there was that I really cared about.
I don't like... It just... I feel like Fallout 4 is not the leap over Fallout 3 that Skyrim was over Oblivion.
No,
and
no
the main,
doubt.
And the main thing I have with Fallout 4 is I think all the game is too visible under the skin. You know what I mean? I feel like there's not enough presentational, almost fluff to disguise the fact that I can see this reputation system and this reputation system and this series of quests that aren't really design quests, but they're using that Radiant AI system to make you go do shit. And nothing you do in that is really going to matter, and it's also never going to end, so you should probably just leave it alone. And the quests don't have any pacing in the sense of the Minutemen quests are just go get these guys, go help those guys, go do that, go do this, go do that. It just doesn't end.
Yeah.
And whether you finish it or not, at one point I think I had 3 towns I was supposed to go liberate or whatever for Preston, and it's just I felt I didn't believe it. I didn't believe the worlds. I didn't believe the people. I didn't believe I didn't believe Diamond City. There wasn't anything there for me to kind of grab onto.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way when I tried to replay Fallout 3 a couple years ago. Even though I love Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was my game of the year that year. But I just don't think it's held up.
Yeah.
Age-wise.
I just feel I guess what it was is it had been a few years since I played Fallout 3, and I never even finished Fallout 3. It came out at a time where I think it was during the fall, and Ryan Stevens reviewed it for GT, and I was reviewing a bunch of other stuff, and I just couldn't get time to get to it.
Yep.
By the time I did have time, other games came out, and it just...
I played it to the end. I played all the DLC. I loved that game to death, but apparently
I enjoyed the time that I spent with it. I think I only played 10 hours of it or something like that.
I mean, the main story was the worst part.
Yeah.
That old...
Well, that sounds like Far Harbor.
Yeah, but the side stuff was all really cool, and a lot of the DLC. I mean, the pit wasn't too great, but the rest of it was really great. The mothership UFO one was really cool. The Lovecraft swamp thing was really cool. I mean, there's a lot of good ideas in that. And I just don't feel them, even in Far Harbor. I don't feel them playing with the setting and having that kind of fun that they do. I'm just going through building after building and killing super mutants.
Here was the kicker, Matt. The kicker is this DLC runs like absolute dog crap.
What?
Oh yeah, I'm playing it on PlayStation 4, and there are literally times where the game drops down to, I'm not exaggerating, 10 frames a second.
Wow.
Yeah.
How? It doesn't even look that good.
Nope.
What?
Because it's that
What's
old
happening?
rusty engine, man.
Gamebryo. Yeah.
It's just wasn't
that
built.
That might be the main thing. They need to step away from that engine and step into the this decade.
They had
frankly.
enough time to make Fallout 4 that they should have built a new engine.
You would think.
I don't know what they spent all their time on, but it runs.
I always wondered if it was supposed to originally be on the Rage engine, and they had so many problems with that they couldn't.
Maybe. But
the next Elder Scrolls better be a new frickin' engine. That's all.
I don't know about the other versions. I've only played the PlayStation 4 version of Far Harbor, but it runs terribly. And I think they're working on a patch. I don't know how you patch that up. I mean, it is so bad. I mean,
so far beyond.
The base game had hitches here and there,
right.
and it would get down the low 20s, maybe worst case scenario. But this, I mean, it looks like it's not finished. It's just simply not polished. Like,
I haven't been to Far Harbor yet, but I'm on the PC version. I haven't seen any. Yeah, I've never had any performance problems with this game.
Yeah, I'm sure on the PC it probably runs like a beast, as long as you have a decent one. But
unless, I mean, I know there's people that have like really bad crash to desktop problems with it, but I've been lucky enough not to have that happen.
Yeah, I'm just really disappointed in this. This was the DLC I was waiting for.
Well, I'm very unhappy to hear that.
Yeah,
I was hoping I was like you. I was like, well, Far Harbor's coming. That was and I know I forgot it, and it came out, and I didn't notice. But like, still, like back when I was underwhelmed by, and part of the reason I wasn't paying attention because I was so underwhelmed by what the first 2 DLC snippets were going to be, and I was like, well, I'll just ignore those until Far Harbor comes out, and then Far Harbor will be what I'm really here for, and then I forgot, and now apparently I didn't need to remember.
Nothing. Yeah. So do not go buy the DLC for Fallout 4. I don't care how many hours you put into it. If you bought the season pass, I'm sorry. It has not worked out to be a great deal at all. Not even a solid deal by any stretch of the imagination.
Kills with Kindness is just depressing me more by bringing up Old World Blues, the DLC for New Vegas, which is probably the best Fallout since Fallout 1 and 2.
Yep.
I mean, that was a great
That's what I'm saying. Vegas had great DLC. I think it was the last DLC for Fallout 3 got like rave reviews. It got like 9s or whatever, like 9 to 10. Like,
is that Mothership Zeta?
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, if any of you are sitting on the fence thinking about buying this, don't do it. Or worst case scenario, like wait like a year when they do like the crazy like Xbox or PlayStation Store deals. You can get it for like a couple bucks or maybe $5. I wouldn't even pay $5 for it, to be honest with you. I regretted playing it because I had all this other stuff I was working on. I mean, the only thing it's amounted to is now we can talk about it on GameFace. So it did ultimately facilitate a segment on GameFace. But otherwise, I'm trying to get through Doom and get the game eval done for that. I'm trying to play Overwatch and get the game eval done for that. And I burned like a whole night playing this because I was excited to freaking play it. Like, yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope they're not done. I mean, I know they haven't said anything else, but we're about to get a Bethesda press conference. Maybe they'll have more DLC in the pipeline.
But if this is what we're getting, who cares?
How can you justify charging that much for the season pass for those things?
Because they sold, I don't know.
There's got to be more.
There's got to be. Maybe somebody on the chat knows, but
there's people in like Vin Hill is saying that there's more coming.
Okay,
but I don't know if that's just. I mean, to me, it seems to me there has to be more coming.
There better be.
You can't bump the price up of the DLC and then give us one story-driven thing and 2 toys. Like, that doesn't make
that's
any
really
sense.
what those first 2 were. Yeah, they're just like toys to fiddle around with. So, yeah, if you're thinking about spending like the $10 or $15, I don't even know how much it costs, to be honest with you. They sent me a code for it, but if you're thinking about spending it, don't. I'm saving you your money right now. So, and if you ever have the season pass, and you already know it sucks. So. All right, it's time to move on to our trailer of the week. Trailer came out today. I was going to use Ghost Recon, but then I realized I wanted to actually talk about it in the show. So instead, we have another awesome trailer. It is for Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. It is a crazy. Have you watched this yet, Matt?
No.
It is a crazy live-action trailer. The amount of money that was put into this boggles my mind. Because it literally looks like film quality, like live-action CG. Haven't seen anything from this game in a couple months now.
Yeah.
We have had one of the trailers for this game as our trailer of the week before, but that was actually like a gameplay trailer or whatever.
It's creeping up.
It is creeping up. The game is coming real soon, so we should start seeing a lot more media. And I'll tell you what, if it's all as good as this one, I'm all for it. Here it is.
How did we get here?
Technology is advancing at a phenomenal rate. Artificial eyes to cybernetic limbs.
The promise of a better future.
We now have the choice to free ourselves from any kind of limitation.
Strength, power, speed. Now I focus on what really matters.
Have these augmentations really been
There are
tested?
people who say that what is happening is unnatural, that we're playing God. But people were scared of electricity. And where would the world be without
What
that?
happens if this technology falls into the wrong hands?
Diseases or viruses that could wipe out the human race.
Scenes of terror are being witnessed worldwide.
What kind of madness has gripped the mechanically augmented people? 9 million deaths confirmed and counting.
This is an attack on humanity and the universal values that we share.
These people were hacked. They had no control.
What is the appropriate response? And can we actually protect ourselves from this happening again?
I have no idea what happened. I would never...
He tried to kill me. At what point will governments consider the idea of segregation for all our sakes?
We can be politically correct, or we can be foolish, but it's going to get worse and worse.
The Czech Republic adds its voice to a growing list of countries calling for the relocation of its augmented citizens.
No
Reports of severe shortages of the drug neurophazine required to inhibit the rejection of augmentations.
We will fight for our God-given rights to defend our will.
Inside a growing anti-augmentation sentiment, thousands are.
It doesn't matter how many idiots you get out there on the street. We will not relinquish our limbs. Do you understand?
What is happening on this planet is a mass fear-mongering, and the mainstream media pushing this narrative.
The officer suffered severe facial injury.
Incident after incident after
You need
incident.
to be afraid, because they are coming for you.
We will not be made slaves to corporations. We will rise up.
To them, we are the enemy.
Have you seen what your kind are doing?
My kind? You sound just like them.
We come to a tipping point.
You can't live like this anymore.
This violence is completely out of control.
The road is being paved for this corporate militant state.
What do they have planned for us?
Why are they building concentration camps?
What's going on out there?
Reports of multiple fatalities. Only one way to deal with these bloodthirsty fanatics.
A lot of people died. Now you want to take away our freedom? You will pay for it in blood.
Multiple detonations looks like car
The
bombs.
Augmented Rights Coalition denies responsibility.
The Segregation Act has been passed into law, effective immediately.
Augmented persons are being asked to move to safe and secure segregated districts.
I don't want them to take me.
We are still your neighbors, your brothers, your sisters, your lovers. We lost everything. Our dreams, our innocence. Where are you taking her? Where are you taking her? Our humanity.
Well, if you didn't know what Deus Ex was about, now you do. That's pretty much what the whole story is about. Augmentation.
Knowing it's half the battle.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. That looked like it could be a movie or something.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Like,
a little 3-minute trailer for a video game.
Varies between looking like a movie and looking like a drug commercial.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know if
Looked
they
like
have
a commercial for herpes medication.
Yeah, I don't know if they have drug commercials like that in Europe, because
Yeah.
I think that's a peculiarity of our broken medical insurance system here
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
US.
you're right.
But they have like these weird, like, idyllic sort of like, ads for like medication for things you didn't know you could get.
Yeah.
And it's
And
always
you don't
like,
wanna get
and
it.
it's always like this, our Lumisil can help you have a little, and then they have a list of side effects.
8
It's like the
million
entire
side
half of the
effects.
commercial, and it always comes down like. It might cure this thing that's bothering you. It might also kill you
It might
really
make your-
hard and fast.
It might make your left foot fall off.
So,
Yeah, so my iPad died.
so I'm picking the questions.
So Matt is handling all the questions for today's Q&A, so which means it'll be a little awkward. Usually we have a system where I find a question, Matt answers it, and vice versa, and it works that way. So it might be a little bit
I'll
awkward.
keep my eye out. So
Sam's going to hook me up with his phone here.
Eric Estrada 12 asks, any thoughts on the new Mighty No. 9 trailer and all the negative reaction to it, especially the anime fan prom joke? P.S. I never watched Chips. My name really is Eric Estrada.
Wow. That's great. You still never watched Chips even after we've mentioned it? Like,
Yeah, I'd watch a show with a guy named with my name in it.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe not. I mean, I don't know. Chips isn't that great, really.
Oh, that Mighty Number 9 trailer is terrible. Terrible.
I haven't seen it.
It's so bad that Inafune came out and was like, we had nothing to do with that. That's all. Look, that doesn't happen, dude. Where the developer comes out and talks smack about the publisher of his game. He was like, oh, that's all on them. They never showed that to us. Never ran it by us. See, that's all on Deep Silver, and you're right. It is terrible. And there's like a big uproar on the internet over it right now. And
the publisher that gave us the disembodied, bloody zombie torso packaging for Dead Island Riptide. You remember that?
Yep. Yeah.
Nolan Elric asks, Matt, are you trying to force SLI for Doom? No, I am not, because it runs like shit when I do that. So I switched to just the one card. I'm running it at 1440, which is rock solid 60. If I take VSync off, it ranges between like 90 and 110, but it's not a stable enough frame rate for me to like playing it, so I just switched to 60.
Here's another good one. Snowpiercer, you bust out good questions pretty much every week on the show. What games do you believe will transcend generations and be the examples that we show the next generation of what a good game is? Keep in mind, these are kids that we'd be demonstrating these games to, like The Last of Us might not be the most appropriate.
Yeah, Mario Maker would be something I'd show a kid. Although that kind of draws on like 35 years of game design to some degree. In my experience, they don't care. Like, you can show a kid whatever they want. They're just going to keep playing Minecraft on their iPad.
Yeah,
I'll tell you the one series I introduced my 7-year-old niece to because I saw she liked like kind of build your house, decorate your stuff games. I gave her Harvest Moon for her 3DS, and she loves it. So there's a series that seems to stand the test of generations, and they just came out with a new one at the end of March or April, which I'm going to pick up, and that'll be her birthday present. So Harvest Moon is the game I'm passing on to the next generation the most at this point. And Skylanders, and I think Skylanders is probably going to be handed down from sibling to sibling at the very least, if not parent to child.
Yeah. That's a really tough question. I mean, I've mentioned on the show before that I feel like kind of the next wave of games and what games are going to be in 10 years is they're all going to have some semblance of RPG elements in them. So I guess I would kind of point to games like The Division and Destiny. I wouldn't say that's like the sterling example, but I think it's the beginning, the genesis of what that's ultimately going to become. As far as a game to show a child, to get them into games or maybe show them what the future might be, like I would still probably say like Super Mario Galaxy 2, like that game still with like its upside down platforming and how it flips like the perspectives on you, like there's still really no other game that has done a lot of the stuff that game did, and how it plays with gravity in a lot of the levels. Like that game's just mind blowing, by the way. Like if you haven't played Super Mario Galaxy 2 and you even have a slight semblance of enjoyment for platformers, go play the game, because it is still leaps and bounds ahead of any other game in the genre. Like I'll be interested to see Yooka-Laylee, like what they do with that game. They have a lot to live up to. And I'm still really disappointed in Super Mario 3D World. It was a great game, but it's a shadow compared to the Mario Galaxy games, in my opinion. So if there were one game I was to show a kid, like this is what games can be when you have really creative people and really talented people making them, it would probably be Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Solo Dolo 241 asks, do you think it would be smarter for Mirror's Edge to release after E3? Will the show overshadow it? I think they could market more around E3 and release it after.
They just announced yesterday they're making a TV show about Mirror's Edge, which I think makes sense.
More sense. Yeah, it makes a little more sense than making more
games.
A lot of them, yeah.
I hope they get a good budget to make it. That's my big concern, is they try to skip on the budget and it ends up being cheesy.
I bet a lot of it takes place at night.
Yeah.
Which is kind of anathema to Mirror's Edge, because Mirror's Edge is defined by the giant, bright, white city.
You're right, yeah. I honestly don't think Mirror's Edge is going to do well regardless.
I don't think it matters.
I really don't. I think the people who want the game know they want the game already. They already know when it's coming out. They already plan on buying it. It doesn't really matter when it comes out. Like, I don't really see anybody getting ensnared by, like, the marketing or the advertising from this game and being a case of where, like, I've never heard of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and now I want it. Like, I just don't see that happening with this game. I think, there's a pretty dedicated fan base for the game. I think EA knows it. And I think EA is just hoping that all those people go and pick it up. I just feel like it's a pet project for EA to try to keep its elite status, so it doesn't seem like it's just a big like dumping ground for commercial products. Kind of like what they did with Unravel. Like, I think it knew Unravel was never probably going to turn a profit, or if it did, a minimal one. I mean, making a couple $1 million for EA is a joke. So yeah, I don't think that they've necessarily sent it out to die. I think they know the franchise. They know there's an audience for it. They know the audience is going to find it out, seek it out, and know about it. Well, without having to have some crazy... It doesn't need to come out in Q4. If it came out in Q4, I think it would be even worse.
Get buried there.
I mean, the good news for it is that there isn't a lot of competition in the second week of June for sales.
Or the third week.
Yeah.
Or the fourth. I mean, it's got June kind of to itself to some degree for people to discover it and pick it up. I don't know how much that's going to happen.
I think it might actually work out in the game's benefit for it to come out during E3. And not everyone like us locks themselves down for 5 days and watches video game coverage.
Suited Armor asks, Shane, can you give a little story about some of the action figures behind you on the shelf, like where you got it from, and will you guys get the limited Voltron action figure on Amazon?
Oh, God.
If you're talking about the $400 Masterpiece Anniversary Voltron thing, yes, I will be getting that at some point.
I don't know what there is to tell about it. Matt, did you buy me the Soundwave?
I did.
Yeah, you did.
That was I don't know if that was birthday or Secret Santa, but yeah, I did give you that.
Yeah, so Matt bought me the Gen 1 Soundwave, which I have transformed into the little cassette player right now. Most of the other stuff I got, those the mushroom things were candy things I got in Japan, and I ate all the candy out of them, and now it's just like the metal case. Like, packaging in Japan is so awesome. It's like, in America, everything's in plastic. In Japan, like, the packaging costs more than like the stuff that's inside it. Obviously, Assassin's Creed. That
was the collector's edition.
Yep, that was sent to me by Ubisoft when the game came out. Super Monkey Ball. Those two Super Monkey Ball balls I bought in Japan. You probably can't even see them. Yeah, you can.
You can see them. They're up on the left side.
I bought those myself in Japan when I went to Tokyo Game Show in 2007 or 2008, I think it was. I've never seen Super Monkey Ball. I've never seen that before. I'm the only person I've ever seen that has those. The Rabbids vinyl toys, those were sent to me by Ubisoft in a really cool package that had them all slotted in. Probably the thing I'm most proud of is that little picture. You can see it there next to the Statue of Liberty for Grand Theft Auto. That is an autographed picture of Space Invaders from the man who created Space Invaders. That is one of my most prized pieces of gaming swag, or whatever you want to call it. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for that guy. Space Invaders was my first ever favorite video game, so I'm really happy that I have that. The Yoshi egg came with Yoshi's something or other from Nintendo. You can open it up.
I loved Yoshi's something or other.
You can open it up and put stuff inside it.
I don't know what that thing is on the far right.
That's for a game called Flock, which was
I remember that
little
game,
indie Capcom game. I don't think that they can. Yeah, they can see it on there.
And then the little things on the shelf above that are all little Pokemon.
Yep. So for a while there, I was collecting, if you see all the little dinky ones that are all along the second shelf there, for a long time, every time I would go to Japan, I would go to and just buy the original 150 Pokemon figurines.
And don't forget to point out your helmet back there.
Oh, yeah. So the helmet, which they can see. So that black helmet in the corner.
That black blob there is a helmet.
That's actually a flight helmet. Yeah, you're pointing at it. It's actually a flight helmet that was given to me when I went to review Call of Duty Black Ops 1, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. Or no, it was 2. Because 2...
It says Black Ops on it.
Oh, I guess it was the first one. Yeah, so it is the first one. And it has my gamer tag on the front. It says Dimfire, right across the front of the helmet.
I was super jealous when everybody came back with those.
Yeah. I mean, you can see what happened to it. It just sits on a shelf.
Right. But it's got your name on it.
It does.
Yeah. It's I was same I was jealous for the early the beta users of the original Xbox Live. They got headsets that had their gamer tag on it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the coolest damn thing ever.
Yeah.
And it would have been useless, far useless now, but it's one of those things. I I like branded, personalized things like that.
And the Master Chief helmet, everybody's got one of those. They try to make a big deal out of them. They're like, oh, it's like this limited edition thing, and then they had like so many. They
everywhere. You
giving them
clearance on Best Buy. And the Jade Empire picture back there is signed by everybody.
By the entire development team, of Jade Empire. So that's another thing.
If we ever have a really slow week, maybe we can like just bring in pictures of all our like best games swag.
Or just bring it in and show it.
And show it off.
And do a show and tell, which is kind of what we just did right there. So yeah, that's what I've got in here. I have closets and closets full of this stuff back at home, but these are the pieces I decided to bring in for the set, as it were. Let's see.
A lot of people asking about your E3 schedule.
Oh. What I can talk about so far is that Matt and I will be doing the E3 press conference hangouts again. So we'll be sitting here watching the press conferences with you guys, commentating, being respectful. We're not going to ruin any of the great moments from the press conferences. We know when to shut up and when to celebrate.
Because we're watching too.
Yeah.
Like we're there too.
Yeah, but we had a lot of fun doing it last year. It was really great hanging out with you guys and sharing the experience of E3. Like in years past, I've always gone to the press conferences and sat there like by myself with these people. I don't even know who the hell they are. It was nice to be able to be somewhere where you can talk.
What are we doing on Sunday? Like, isn't it like EA's like early in the afternoon and then it's like 5 hours and then Bethesda or something like that?
I'm not sure what the schedule is like. I think there was a pretty big gap in between.
I know Pachter was talking about how he's going to like go
get
drink
drunk.
scotch
while
he waits for Bethesda to start. Seems like a pretty good strategy to me. But...
Or just bring some scotch here. It will be a total disaster by the time Bethesda starts. But we are going to be, all I'm going to announce right now is that we are doing the E3 Hangouts again. So we'll be here to hang out with you guys during the press conferences. All the other stuff I'll be announcing probably first week of June, something like that. But count on watching the live streams of the press conferences with Matt, myself, and Sam, who will be here as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those were fun. And then we do like the cut downs of them with the highlights that we put up on the site. We after every press conference, we do about 30 to 45 minutes of analysis, talking about what we just saw and what we think about what we just saw. So you hang out with us during the press conferences. We chat with you guys via chat. Matt and I talk, react to things as they happen. Then once it's done, we wrap it up for a good half hour, 45 minutes. And then we post all that stuff for our subscribers as archives. So we'll do a cut down of the actual press conference of us reacting to the big stuff. And then we'll put up the entire analysis videos after each press conference. So that's what we did last year that we're doing again this year. I haven't announced yet what we're doing different from last year. So hope that helps a little bit.
Ian Esquire. Currently playing the Order 1886 and actually found myself enjoying it. What games have you guys played that are panned by the critics but you found yourself surprised by how much you enjoyed it?
Oh boy.
Every Assassin's Creed since like Brotherhood, maybe? I mean, sometimes it feels like I'm the only one that likes those games anymore. I don't really like them unconditionally.
I mean, talking about our audience, Call of Duty, like it's ding, ding, ding. Like I like Call of Duty. Most of the people on Sifted hate Call of Duty. Most hardcore gamers say that they hate Call of Duty. So that's definitely the one for me.
Man, that's a hard call. I pay so little attention to what reviews are anymore, beyond exactly what we talk about on this show that I don't...
Oh, wait, was the stipulation it had to get bad review scores?
Just like a game that was panned by critics, but you really enjoyed.
God Hand. Well, I guess that wasn't panned by everybody. There's a couple outlets that really
gave it
hammered
a 2 or something.
There's a couple outlets that really hammered it, but I really like that game.
Yeah, so the Assassin's Creed, they don't get terrible review scores, but... I like them better than most of the Metacritic would indicate you should like them, I guess. I don't remember what kind of reviews Nier got, but I feel like I like that a lot more than the reviews let on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'd have to do...
Well, you want to know why it's so tough? Because most outlets never give scores below a 7.
Right.
It's hard to think of game... Sitting here, it's hard to think of games that scored poorly, period.
Yeah, that weren't like a complete throwaway.
Right, that weren't just shovelware, whatever,
It's like a lot of times you see like this, the full 10-point scale gets used a lot more liberally when like the game is something no one cares about.
Yeah, that's funny how that works. Here's one from Captain of Space. Shane, does Sifted get any kind of kickback when I click through links on the curated content? Nope, not at all, and that's totally fine. it's a symbiotic relationship. You know, they're providing the content for us to put into the SIFT, and we're promoting the content for them and sending new users to their website to read it, and so they get their uniques and their ad views. So I wouldn't expect to get any kind of a kickback from them at all. Our relationship, I think it works out even for both sides. So, yeah.
Nolan Elric, Matt, true or false? Ultra Magnus should have been the leader after Optimus Prime, not Hot Rod. Anyone other than Hot Rod, as far as I'm concerned. I didn't deal well with Season 3, really. I don't like Hot Rod. I don't like Rodimus. Ultra Magnus is way better. Springer's even better than that.
Let's see if we can find like a couple more.
Blump Giza? What game have you spent the most time in during your childhood? What is your fondest memory? The game I played the most when I was a kid was Wasteland. I must have played over 1,000 hours of Wasteland on the Apple IIe, which is one reason I'm a Fallout fan after that, because that was the spiritual successor to Wasteland was Fallout.
When I was a little kid, in television football. That game was insane. Like, most football, I don't know if you ever saw Atari football, but basically it was just like, the players looked like Space Invaders, and they blinked the whole time. Like, it was just like the game wasn't done or whatever. It was terrible. But in television football, had the full, like, 11 on 11, and you could actually call plays and make plays. You could, like, it had, I don't know if you ever used in television, but it had, like, that weird disc at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then it had a keypad. It had, like, the plastic sleeves that went over top of them. Well, you could, like, program plays in that game. You could say, basically, like, number 1 receiver does route number 2 at defensive player number 3. And so it was like a code that you put in to call plays. And, like, it was just the running animation. It was just mind-blowing.
Oh, right. The sprite with the moving
yeah.
over. Yeah,
I mean,
remember that.
just some running animation to me when I was a kid was just mind-blowing. And we would just literally sit there and just play it just for days and days. Like, I would go and stay the night at my buddy's house, and we'd play it all night. And then he'd come to my house, and we'd play it all night. Like, it was, as a kid, it is the game I played more than any other.
And I think my fondest memory might have been getting to the end of Bionic Commando in the middle of the night, sleeping over at my friend Rob's house, and we got to the end, and the whole game they're teasing that they're going to resurrect Master D. Master D is going to be resurrected, and finally Master D walks out of the cloning tube, and it's Hitler, and both of us at the same time, when his portrait popped up in the dialogue box, both of us just yelled, "It's Hitler!" Like it's like 3 in the morning, and like we're like, oh, we just woke up his parents by screaming, "It's Hitler!" at 3 in the morning. That's one of my more favorite old game memories, I'd say.
Here's one from Kadaz1. Since VR is supposed to be the catalyst for this transition to new platforms, have you seen or heard of any games so far that would be game changers? It seems too early to make this leap to me. No, not really. They're all just like brief experiences. Like, I wouldn't even really call them games. Like, Insomniac's one game, it's like a real game, but it just looks like a third-person action adventure, but you play it in VR. Like, that's not really like a game changer.
Well, I keep forgetting what the name of the damn Oculus Rift exclusive kind of Zelda-ish game. Chalice? Is that what it is?
No, it's Chronos.
Chronos?
I believe, yeah.
You know what I'm trying to
That's
say.
the best VR game so far, but it's just, again, it's like a Zelda clone in VR. If you're asking, like, a killer app for VR, like, no. The killer app for VR right now is VR. Like, just the experience of putting on the head-mounted display is the killer app right now, but people get tired of that, and it's going to need to be experiences. Like, honestly, the best experiences for me in VR have been the really simple things, like the games where you're just playing, like, virtual reality Pong, where you have, like, a shield, and the ball comes back and forth, and you're reflected. Like, the most simple things have been the most fun. I don't know if ultimately they stand the test of time, but that's the most fun I've had with VR. The more active stuff has been, like, the more fun stuff for me, instead of the passive things where you just sit there and have, like, the world come at you. There was the one demo. The one thing I would say, the one demo that Capcom has called Kitchen, or The Kitchen, that is kind of a game changer. Because basically, in it, you're just strapped in a chair with this crazy psycho, like, circling around you, like, talking about killing you. And, like, it sounds really simple, but it is, like, terrifying. Like, because the other part is you can't get up. Like, you're stuck in the chair, and you're about to be murdered. And that's pretty scary. And so that probably
Just
offers...
another lazy Sunday game.
Yeah. So I think that offers, like, the first glimpse of the power that VR can have. You know, what leads up to that scene where you're in the kitchen and blah, blah, who knows? And what happens after he kills you, does it matter? Like, after you experience it once, is it scary the second time? I mean, there's all these questions about VR, but to answer your question succinctly, no, I have not seen a killer app for VR yet.
Snowpiercer asks if there's any games you feel have a beginning, middle, and end that don't need a sequel. And I can think of two off the top of my head, which would be Shadow of the Colossus, which I know we'll never get one, and The Last of Us, which I don't think I need any more of Last. I think The Last of Us told its story and did its characters justice, and I assume if when they do the sequel, it will be different characters at a different time period. It'll be.
I think if they did it like a True Detective type thing, where it has like the same kind of tone, but it's
same
different
tone,
characters,
same world, but. Just in terms of, like, I don't
No more True Detective, by the
way.
way. That makes me really sad.
Not after Season 2, it doesn't.
It wasn't terrible, Season
2. I didn't finish it.
I did. I enjoyed it.
Not
as good as Season 1. Season 1's, like, groundbreaking.
Well, I kind of hope he goes away and does whatever he's doing, and maybe he comes back to that later.
There you go.
But, I don't need any more Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
I think their stories are told.
You know, I never say never. I don't like to just say I don't ever want to see something again because, you know, I think there was probably a time where I said I don't want to see another Doom. Or a shooter like Doom, a circle strafer. But here I am playing Doom and loving it. So I try to never speak, even though I'm, how ironic, I try to never speak in absolutes. That was an oxymoron right there.
Yeah, good work, Obi-Wan. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Well, that's an absolute, isn't it?
Only a Sith deals...
Only two there are.
Yeah, I mean, I would never say I just don't want to see a sequel for any franchise because I could say maybe I don't want to see another game exactly like it. Like, in all honesty, I don't want to see another game exactly like Uncharted 4. Like, I feel like that series is done. Like,
it's also kind of a weird thing where, like, it's easy to point at a movie and be like, oh, I don't want a sequel to that movie because sequels to movies tend to be not as good as their predecessors. Historically, but game sequels tend to improve.
I mean, here's the thing too, like some other developer could pick up Uncharted and have some crazy ideas for it, just like with Doom. And like then I'd be like, see, I should have never said I don't want another Uncharted. So that's why I try to stay away from saying stuff like that. All right, 2 more questions and then we got to go.
Everybody's going to bed.
Do you think Sony will abandon play? Okay, last question. Do you think Sony will abandon? This is from Snowpiercer again. I can't answer another Snowpiercer question. We're not giving all the other guys a fair shot. I saw Vin Hill said Super Potato. Love that store.
I heard that store is kind of bare bones these days. Like that.
How's that possible?
There's only so much ancient, vintage content, and
wait, you mean there's like it's all gone?
Akihabara is not what it once was. We've been gone a long time.
No, I was just there in end of 2012.
That's an eternity in electronic gaming.
And not for Super Potato. I had gone there for like 11 years straight, and it was the same every time I went there. Great store. If you ever go to Japan, I highly recommend going there if you like retro stuff. Oh gosh. I don't want to sit here forever like looking for questions.
Let's see if let's let the chat catch up to us saying that we need one more and see where we get.
Yeah, because
there's a lag here. We see stuff a ways ago.
I see Robust Haggis agrees with me on Uncharted that it's done. So, although he hasn't picked up the new one yet, you should definitely play the new one.
There you go. SMC92 Ian, any games you loved, then went back to and hated it.
Oh yeah, there's been lots.
Well, I just talked about Fallout 3.
Yeah.
I couldn't get through that again, picking it up again last year.
I mean, there's tons of games. Time goes on, and like time isn't kind to a lot of video games. Particularly anything technology related. When you try to go back to it years later, like, I mean, almost all the classic arcade games that I played back in the day. Like they're like Are Kung Fu. Like that was my favorite arcade game when I was a kid. You play it now, it's a total piece of crap.
Yeah, well, it's like
Karate Champ.
Advances.
Remember Karate Champ?
Yeah, yeah.
I spent tons of money playing that game in the arcade. Now it's just terrible.
Gameplay advances, gameplay leaps and bounds, and a mechanically involved interactive experience is never going to age as well as like a narrative one, because stories are stories, but what you do in a game is always different.
Yep. And I would say just in general, the early 3D games, like a lot of PlayStation 1 games, a lot of the N64 shovelware, you go back and play those now, and they do not hold up very well at all, particularly PlayStation 1 games. Like,
I always said PlayStation 1 was going to be a lost generation in that regard, because they're almost Rorschach tests.
Well, it's like playing like Crash Bandicoot in Uncharted 4. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I sat and played through this whole game.
Well, that's the thing, is I didn't back then.
I did.
I never liked Crash Bandicoot.
I mean, I thought, Mario 64 was way, way better, but I still played Crash Bandicoot, and that game now is just horse crap.
Well, also my main takeaway from it playing in Uncharted 4 was the same as back then. I'm like, why are you making me run towards the camera?
Yeah.
Like, this is the absolute I mean, I know you want to show me the boulder, but like, this is the worst way to do And hell, that was one of my complaints about Uncharted 2, was that one scene where you had to run like towards the camera away from things. I'm like, this is like Crash Bandicoot, and I hated Crash Bandicoot.
Resident Evil 4 had the boulder scene.
Yeah, because you didn't have Chris Redfield yet, where you just punch that boulder into rubble. That's how man-handled shit, Leon.
All right, so that's it for this week's Q&A. It's time for the Sifted Elite roll call. And here they are. We got 4 brand new members of Sifted Elite. These people donated $50 or more to our Sifted Elite program, and we appreciate it very much. Unique. I love that name, by the way, with the 1 for the I. Dolza178. Robust Haggis. And I like this one. This is my favorite one. Al Capone. So it's like Al Capone, right?
But it's also like Alka-Bone.
Yeah, like a Pokemon.
Like an Alka-Seltzer bone.
Oh, isn't there also a Pokemon named something similar to that?
Cubone.
Cubone, maybe?
I don't know, there's so many damn Pokemon now. It could be anyone named anything.
You can just make up a word and it's a Pokemon. So that's it. That's this week's Sifted Elite Roll Call. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome. Appreciate each and every one of you guys who contribute to Sifted Elite. It makes a huge, huge difference. So thank you very much. So I think that's it, Matt. The cat is out of the bag. The Penguins are in the Stanley Cup Finals, provided you guys didn't lie to me, which would really suck. It's been a great 3 hours, I got to say. I probably actually enjoyed the Penguins making it to the finals more not watching. Because if I had watched the rest of that game, especially if it really ended up ending 2-1, I would have been a total wreck. So, as always, thanks everyone for tuning in, no matter where you are, but extra special props out to our European watchers. I appreciate you guys very, very much. I know it's even more difficult now that we start the show a little later. So, everybody have an excellent weekend. It's a long weekend. At least in America it is. Memorial Day. So, for all you American sifters, have a great 3-day weekend. Play it safe. Don't drink and drive. Make sure you Uber wherever you're going if you're having a good time. Have some hamburgers and some hot dogs. And we'll see you back here on GameFace next week. GameFace is up and out.